like the Spice Girls a lot of the time in my life now, whether I'm laughing or I'm going, yo.
What'd you say you used to call me?
YOLO.
You know what? You could put this out to a vote and say...
Speak more into the mic.
You could put this out to a vote and say, you guys, I think this is about to be a bigger project than a hobby. I need a name that goes with that. YOLO is amazing.
That's true. Ooh, the YOLO podcast.
Just
YOLO.
the YOLO show. YOLO show. I don't know. Let me shop it a little.
Okay, so Laura,
What?
YOLO, the YOLO show, or the old Gilman show?
I like the last one.
The YOLO.
Because YOLO makes me
That's
think
it.
of Rolo, and that's a candy.
Okay, done.
Candy's
we have our.
delicious.
We have
I
our.
know, but
Desire.
So the old Gilman show sounds good, right?
yeah, it does.
Sounds like a legit. Like
It
I'm going
does.
on the old Gilman show.
It does. I mean, yes, it does.
Yeah.
I've
The
been
YOLO's
trying.
good.
I've been working a lot on like branding right now for some reason.
Ooh, the thing you sent me, talks you'll love.
Talks you'll love.
That's a good one.
Once I got it, it was great, but I didn't
Yeah.
get it at first. I think
Okay.
it's a little deeper than.
Okay, that could be a really good sub title,
Yeah, talks you'll love.
like a subheading. You know, you're like the Yoel Gilman show. Talks you'll love.
That's pretty good. But I
Yeah.
had to think about it.
Yeah,
had to
I
do that.
think our society right now is way more open to puns, play on words, like creative and almost like silly ideas, but you can incorporate them under a more professional
Yeah.
banner, and then it's like a wink, you know, like the whole thing doesn't have to be like a joke, but definitely showing like your sense of humor and that you don't mind if people use your name
Yeah.
in place of Yule.
Oh, take this
What's
thing
happening?
off so you're more comfortable.
What's this?
The cable.
Yeah.
Yeah, just put it like on your lap.
Oh.
There you go.
I actually think I might be more comfortable.
Just
with
like
it
that? So how's your California trip?
It's great.
You love it? So when were you here last? You guys sounds like you guys were in Manhattan Beach before together. 2 years ago, you were saying?
I was here in 2020 when everything
2
was.
years ago.
Summertime.
Yeah, for the whole summer, pretty much.
During the beginning of COVID.
Yes.
That was gnarly.
We
Yeah.
met Labor Day 2019, and we spent like 2 days maybe
Yeah.
hanging out in Hermosa.
So you met here
Yeah.
in Hermosa in 2019.
And we just became like best confidants over that following
Year.
6-8
Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
And then we kept talking about her coming to visit. And I think at that time I was waiting for my roommate to move out.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, this girl might be my next roommate.
You girls are fascinating.
Why?
Because not you, just girls in general. You could
Oh,
meet a girl.
girls.
Yeah, girls in
We
general.
gotta talk about
We have
that.
to talk about that.
We
then.
got to talk about girls. Because a girl could meet a girl,
Yeah,
and I'm going to be best friends with this girl.
absolutely.
That's fascinating to me. It is.
You
there's
don't meet guys and you're like,
never,
this guy.
never, never. In fact, well, you're talking with someone. I'm probably a little more, not judgy, but a little more skeptical when I meet people. So I'm not a good person to ask.
The irony.
The irony. But I think generally with guys, we don't even think in those terms. It's like, oh, you're a cool dude. And then I don't think we think in terms of friendships as much of friendships just sort of happen with certain people. But women seem to be much more methodical about it. Like you met her and in your head, you're like, she might be my next roommate. That's a deep thought about someone you just met.
That one didn't come. That wasn't my first thought. I think I knew we were connecting on a level that we were just saying this last night. I think I don't connect with many people at the level that we are able to speak with each other. And I was thinking about what that dynamic is. I do not have to spend any time explaining how I see the world to her.
She gets you.
And so I was looking at my frying pan and there's like circles, it's rings that go out, and I'm like, I feel like we're out here and I can talk and connect with people who are anywhere inside that, but so far, like so few people are this far out,
Right.
that I don't even have to explain to you what it's like to be out here. This is where we are, and we don't spend time talking about that. Now we get to talk about other things. You know, I don't have to explain to her how I approach the world, how I view God, how I talk to God. Like
Right.
we'll grow within those spaces, but I don't have to like catch her up and try to get her to understand it. She already knows.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I had another friend that was visiting on that trip named Noelle. And then I remember she thought that Noelle was going to be the one that she really clicked with, but it wasn't. It was me.
And that's the other thing.
Yeah.
You as a girl are thinking, I'll click with that one. And then I end up clicking with there's all these stuff going on, this stuff going on in your head, which is fascinating to me.
Yeah. I mean, I love meeting new people.
Yeah.
And even more so now.
Yeah, me
But,
too.
there wasn't any part of me that was like, oh, no, we didn't click that well. It's just she was catching up with her old friend who we're going to meet up with after this. And so that was like the focus of that. And so I got to have these one-on-one talks with Noelle. But when it shifted to us and I realized, wait a second, this girl, she gets it. It was like a big surprise. And so as time went on and we were, interacting, mostly on Instagram first, and then we ended up calling each other and we would talk for hours and we would FaceTime, pray for each other, all this stuff. I'm like, this girl might be my next roommate.
She gets it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was it about that made you think that basically she saw life the way you do?
She is, I would say she's not as outgoing as me, but she's fearless. So that's interesting to me.
But okay, so what if someone tells you, how could you be fearless if you're not outgoing? So apparently you think the two are not connected.
I would say she's not as like in your face as I am.
Right.
But like if you enter the conversation, she has no problem telling the truth.
Right.
And like I've really learned how much I value honesty, truth, and humility in the past 2 years especially. So I really saw that in her. Like she really believes what she believes. She's not afraid to talk about it. And like even at that point where if it wasn't being received well, she still wasn't concerned. She's like, well, that's how it is. Like, that's how I feel. That's what I believe. And it challenged me like, man, she's fearless and dare I say, like more reserved than me. Mm-hmm. What am I afraid of? I need to start really telling the truth. And like we were talking about earlier, having a friend who feels stuck, not able to actually acknowledge what they believe, what they're thinking, their thoughts on stuff. I think you really set me into a decent amount of freedom in that, tell people the truth about.
Ooh,
everything.
The glasses are coming off.
Oh yeah.
I
think my
her.
eyes maybe adjusted to the intensity of the
light.
initial lighting.
Ladies and gentlemen,
no,
she's
I
not
feel
really a celebrity. She just looks like
Anna
one.
Delphi. She's an heiress. You guys don't get it because neither of you saw that show, but everyone watching.
I don't
has
watch.
seen
You know
it.
what's the only show I watched in my life? 2 shows I watched in my life.
Ever.
I don't watch anything.
Ever?
I don't watch anything. I don't have time in my life. If I'm not doing this, I'm editing these. And if I'm not editing these, I'm flying with people or I'm sleeping or I'm...
I respect that.
I know.
I really,
Yeah.
I used to be a big, I don't watch TV. I
don't
can't
have a
stand
TV.
guys that are into professional sports. Like
video
I'm like,
games.
or video games.
I love flight simming on the computer,
That's different.
but
That's
I don't
your
have
job.
time. But I haven't done it in a long time because I just don't have time. I really don't have time, which is crazy. Like my life is my days are really full. I'm thankful. I'm really thankful. I also realized my biggest cancer. I'm curious what you think of this. It might be different for everyone, but my biggest cancer, the thing that destroys my life,
Your kryptonite.
yes, my kryptonite, is boredom. Oh, let me say that another way because boredom sounds bad. Downtime.
I
Interesting.
used to be like that.
Downtime is my biggest detriment. Big
I
time.
think there's something
time.
very deep to that.
What do you mean?
I think that's related to something much deeper that you
It might, I'm
understand.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, I think the ability to be alone without activity is something that most people run from. And
I don't know if it's interesting. I don't know if I struggle with that as much as I just don't do it. And so that'd be a interesting thing for me to find out. I don't know.
I mean, I had to learn like the rhythms of rest a few years ago. I didn't have any boundaries for rest. Now I have a deep understanding of it. I wouldn't say that I'm great at it all the time, but when I realized how important it is to have rest in your life, like even the whole creation story, like God created for 6 days and then rested on the 7th.
Mm-hmm.
If he built it that way, and you see people who are just constantly going, we're missing a very foundational part of like how life was meant to be lived. And like we need rest. You can't just talk. Your life needs margin. And so a lot of people who are interesting and have a lot of things to do have a hard time finding margin and making it. But we see rest everywhere we go. We have blank spaces. We have beats in music. Rest is a part of life, but most people, when they're living it, don't actually know how to do it or do it well.
Right.
So that's probably something that you can learn this year.
100%. Downtime and making time for myself. But so much so to the point where I found that I have to, I literally schedule out my days. Like I schedule out every hour. I have a schedule and it's all like every week is full. Even if part of what
I was just remembering how you used to pack your suitcase, and I'm sure you still
I
pack
do the same
that
thing
way.
with my week.
And he
Yeah,
tried
yeah.
to help me, and I was like, "This isn't for me. I'm sorry."
Remember that?
Ziploc bags.
It was all
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah. But that's what I do. I pack my week as long as there's something in that time, even if that space is
A question
run.
mark.
Not a question mark, but
Oh.
like run, like go on a run. As long as something fills that space, even if I show up to it and I switch that activity with something else, as long as something is being taking place.
Yeah.
Order. Yeah.
Yes. And so that's kind of like, I don't know, it took me years until it hit me in the face, and I'm like, downtime kills me. Like it just gets me into trouble. It's not good. It's not good.
I think part of that might be your personality type, which is good, and you're probably very productive, and you obviously have a lot going on. That's great achievements in your life. And you also said you feel really young
Yes.
because of how much life you've lived and your time. And I'm also really big on not wasting time, because time is like the number one thing that we don't get back, you know?
Right.
But I find that when you do leave the space for things to be not planned, that's where some of the most interesting and amazing things will happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, how do you handle when things aren't going according to your plan?
Right.
Like if you get
That's a
thrown
great
off, somebody
question.
cancels an appointment that they had with you. Like,
But today my plan changed. How'd I handle
you're
it?
right. You actually handled it amazing.
I shifted my
Yeah.
evening stuff to the morning.
That was like that was a good tell of like what this would be like. Because I haven't seen you in
Yeah.
2-ish years. Yeah.
2 years.
2
yeah.
years and change.
Yeah.
And I wasn't expecting the grace and the flexibility that you gave. So that's good.
You
know,
handled it great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
if
felt
you-
still super excited to come. It wasn't
Yeah.
like
We
a
were like,
fear
"Oh,
or
no,
like you're angry
we're
about
late."
it or
Yeah. I mean, I really felt bad because I don't want to disrespect your time.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure that we gave appropriate time and everything. But I was wondering if you were going to be upset. And like even hearing that you plan each part of your day like that, it's really good to know that you are flexible still with it.
100%. I mean, I have to. I exist in the world. You know what I mean? Like I exist with other people, and I exist with people not always. I don't want to even say not being on time, because it's not always that. It's like people's day
Changes.
things happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
People have kids, people have jobs, people have like my day shifts too.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't, I mean, I recognize the realm within which I exist.
Mhm.
And at some point, on some level, I have to be flexible. I
Yeah.
have to. Otherwise, I'm shooting myself in the foot. I was talking about this with someone, I think 2 podcasts ago, about how it used to bother me when people showed up. Like if I said, let's grab coffee at 8 and you showed up at 8:15,
Mm-hmm.
it would bother me so much, like on a deep level. I would be so hurt isn't enough to describe. It would just eat me up. Even 5 minutes. And then if on top of that you wouldn't give me a heads up
Mm-hmm.
that you're going to be late,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, it just like used to get me all the time. And until I realized that the day I realized that you being late has zero to do with me is the day it stopped bothering me.
There you go.
Because I always thought it's
Amen.
me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I always thought if you're
Yeah.
15 minutes late, it's because I am worth you being 15 minutes late to meet me. And the day I stopped connecting the two
Mm-hmm.
is really also the day you realize this person's late to their job, this person's late to everything. And so it really has nothing to do with me.
Just stop.
I'm not talking. I wasn't even thinking about you.
Well, now you know this, so
Yeah.
just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I'm not a morning person,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I would like to get there, but currently I'm not.
Yeah.
I can't pretend to be.
No, you have to be flexible. You have to. I mean, you live in the world.
Like what you said is really true though about like the space where surprising things happen. I think my life is so unscheduled and so unstructured, and because it's made up of so many of those beautiful like divine appointments, I could never have planned for it, but because I left the space, I was able to answer it. Like I think about that a lot, that I'd say like the way that I feel God brings people into my life is always like a notification that I have to respond to. Am I going to open this or am I not? Am I going to, nope, I don't have time for that. I get a message, a phone call, an inquiry, like an invitation to engage with something that wasn't on my radar, but I know when it comes, I'm willing to say yes. And therefore I have all these incredible experiences. It actually makes it hard to schedule my life because I want to leave the space open for that. It's so valuable to me that it's hard for me to close doors on that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you have the opposite
I'm
problem.
completely opposite.
That's so interesting.
But I'm also very like relaxed about timing. I know
Right.
that it's not personal. I don't have expectations for people to be on time. Please don't ever be early. Never be early. Don't do that to me.
But you don't think on some level that's like almost sad that as a society, it's not just you, most people don't expect people to be on time, especially if you start getting into like, there's a joke and it's called JST time, Jewish Standard Time. And that's basically because everyone are late. Like I've heard that so
like
many
Mexican
times.
time as well.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure every culture would say that. But you don't think that's kind of sad on some level that we no longer expect people to be there when they say they'll be there?
It is, but
The whole concept of time is really interesting, actually.
Now you're getting way deep.
I know.
Yeah.
Now you're
but
like,
this is why we
who said
connect.
it's-
we like her saying that doesn't make me like, what? I'm like, oh, I know where we're going with this. Yeah. But it's interesting because you were saying in your other episode that we started listening to that it's sad to say that, oh, society standard today. Well, when you look at the foundation of society now, it's almost completely disintegrated. Our traditional values are not there. So
Gone.
what do you expect of people? If there's no baseline, who cares if I'm late? Why? Why does it matter? And I do find that upsetting. I don't want to be a late person, but I definitely don't take it personally. And I would say that I really understand now that I'm right on time for life because I never wanted to be late.
Ooh, okay, that's a very interesting
That's
thing.
like my line. Like I'm right on time for life.
I'm right on time for
yeah,
life.
even when I'm late, when I'm early, when something's, and especially in our job as airline workers.
Strippers.
In our job as airline workers, I had to get this. And I really feel like I wasted the first few years of my career so stressed about things that
Yeah.
I couldn't control. And I really believed like, oh my gosh, I'm screwed. Oh my gosh. Oh no, my flight got canceled. No, we're delayed. There's traffic. So
You were that way?
I lived, like I said, I had that little part of me that's like kind of anxious and would be
I'm
like,
trying to picture you that way on an airplane.
Oh, no, like I always came in like, I'm going to have a great day. And then one thing would go wrong. I'd be like, well, I was going to have a great day. And then this happened. And then this happened. And then this happened. And then I couldn't get locked from that focus.
Right.
And somewhere in it, God set me free because I heard this thing about timing. And it blew my mind because I knew that I had experienced those same types of instances. And I started thinking, what if I drop it? What if I'm like, I'm right on time for life. I'm late right now. That's my fault. However, there's no other life. It's this one.
Right.
This is what time I'm going to get there. I'm not going to try and kill myself to get there faster. I'll get there when I get there. And I ended up experiencing in that first week all these funny things that were so interesting. I'm like, I know this is it. And I never went back.
Whoa.
It changed the way I dealt with my schedule. I'm bidding, what do I bid for? What can I hold? I don't know. Where am I going to be next month? Oh no, I was supposed to get that day off. I just spent so much time freaked out about the timing of my life and where I would go. And I had to surrender it. But God had built my trust earlier than that, for the coming months. And I was like, okay, I give you my schedule and my timing and I trust you that I'll be right on time. And it blows me away. And it's so sad to me that we live in a world and especially in our industry where people are like, shoot, I was supposed to make that flight home. I'm commuting, blah, blah. And they can't let go. They're like, oh, that person having a personal crisis that's real has messed up my whole life today because I was going to do this. I was going to make that flight. I was going to go to this place. And I'm like, it was never going to happen. And all you can think of is what didn't happen and not what's going to happen. You're looking back behind you. You have no eyes for what's right in front of you that you wouldn't have seen otherwise. Did you avoid a car accident? Did you run into an old friend or have a divine appointment? It could be anything. And like having that viewpoint changed my world forever. And that only happened a few years ago. Most of my career was like, ah!
So when you learn that kind of thing,
Yeah.
I bet you tell yourself, why in the heck did I not hear this sooner? Because on some level, it's so
Timing.
simple.
Hear it in perfect timing too.
Yeah, I hear it in
You
perfect
hear it
timing.
when you're ready
I
to
guess
Because
that's
receive
true.
it.
of what value would that have been to you if I had always thought that way? You know?
Well, if you look at the world the way you do, then you're right. Things happen exactly when they should.
Yeah.
But people would have values in having discovered things in their 20s as opposed to
Oh,
their
for
80s.
sure.
You have to be ready to receive
Yeah,
it too, though.
Right.
I'm sure
Right.
I've heard
You could
plenty
be
of things like that.
closed-minded. You could disagree with her. I could be super defensive and be like, "That's not true.
That's
like,
not true.
I don't
should've-
believe that.
I should have
You're
gotten on my
wrong."
flight. I should have been there.
If you're not ready to be like, "Well, maybe you have a point. I never considered it that way."
Mhm.
Was
There's a timing to that too, a maturity.
Yeah.
Well, and the beauty of having the revelation yourself, like I can speak from both sides of it. I used to be like, I'm screwed. Like this has ruined how things were supposed to go. I haven't said anything like that in, I don't know, how many years has it been? Almost 5 years probably.
So it's like you're almost on a constant high.
Yeah, that's what you're like, I'm the luckiest person ever. I'm like, okay, you think so? I feel like I'm on another plane, like another level.
But I'll tell you what, I think while I truly believe I'm the luckiest person I know, I also think and appreciate when other people feel the same about themselves.
Oh, for
I think
sure.
everyone should.
Yes.
I think it's one of those things where everyone should think they're the best cook and
Yeah.
the best whatever. Like I think it's
Well,
good.
there's room for everyone to experience that, and that's what our world doesn't tell us.
Yeah.
It's so competitive.
Whoa.
You know, there's room for everybody to feel like the luckiest or most blessed person alive. And that's has to do with our creation as individuals. That's a whole other rabbit hole of like that book I was going to show you, The Greatest Miracle. The miracle that Yoel Gilman, exists, and there's exactly one of you.
There's only one.
There's only one. Now, Joe, I don't know about him, but you know, we talk about that another day. But yeah, there's only one of each of us.
That's crazy. If you told me to draw, how many people are there? 9 billion?
I thought there was like 8 billion. I
If
don't know.
you told me to draw 8 million faces and I couldn't draw them one looking like the other, that would be a hard task.
How many do you think you could draw?
Let's say I could draw 8 billion. If the only challenge would be not to make a copy of one, that would be tough.
You couldn't do 8
I
billion.
couldn't do
There's
it.
just no way.
But let's say I could. Let's say I did it, but the only challenge was you can't make 2 that look alike. That would be hard. How many faces could you draw?
But it's not even about faces
It's
because
about
we have
everything.
twins. We have identical twins.
Exactly. I was
And they're
thinking
still
that.
different,
Yeah, it's crazy.
you know? And this is something I had to like really learn at another point in my life before the last 2 years. I don't believe that God created anybody to be unlucky. Like people are like, I'm just an unlucky person. I'm
It
like,
breaks my
that's,
heart when people say
it,
that.
it makes me very sad. But I feel grateful that now I have tools to share with them. Like, just like I said, I'll introduce you to how I do this. It works for everybody I've talked to. If you're open and you do this, you get to have your own revelation, and it's going to be different than mine. But just like you both know me, you have different relationships with me, but you still know what I'm like.
Right.
So that's how I would describe it. It's like I'm just trying to introduce you, and you're going to have your own experience, and you're going to love it.
Whoa.
You know?
That is so interesting. What was it about something she said that made you go, she's different? Do you remember what that thing was? Or what were you guys talking about?
I think it was the Instagram post.
I think it was Instagram.
Like a comment
Because
you left her a comment?
we talked in
It was
person.
the kind of stuff I would post on Instagram.
Yeah, we talked in person about some of the stuff that's important to us, but it didn't hit until I saw like, oh, dang, you're bold. Like,
But I'm not that way when you meet me.
no.
Because I
You're
know that if, like, I'll share anything you want to know, but I know if I lead with that, a lot of people would shut down
Yeah.
and think I'm crazy.
So
I keep it very reserved, but I have like a lot of really deep thoughts about
stuff.
things in the world.
So
Yeah.
we were talking earlier about Emilianas.
You can call me
Amelia.
Emily if you want.
Emily.
However you know me.
Emily.
You call me Emilia.
I did. I called
You
you a
left me
bunch
a
of stuff.
voicemail or something. It said Emilia. I don't
Emily.
know. I forget.
No, so
Whatever you want.
we were talking earlier. Emily has a need, right? You don't dispute this. You have a need to be known as who you truly are. Is that fair?
Yeah. I don't care what you call me, but it
Yeah.
has to be actually me.
It has to be actually you. So if I know a fake version of yourself, it would bother you.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Big time.
You have less of that need.
I don't think I understand what you're saying.
So
No.
so for instance, Emily has opinions about stuff.
No, I'd say she's the same way.
Right, but she would be less bothered if I walked away from a conversation not thinking she held those opinions. You need to make me aware that you have those opinions
I would say very few people deeply know me.
because it's not important to you that they do.
Agreed.
It's
And-
important to you that they do.
I wouldn't say that like the goal is that people know me. I think that as long as I show up ready to tell the truth, it's going to be a different conversation with each person, but they're always going to get the truth. That's what I care about. They don't have to know everything about me. They couldn't.
So you hate being in a situation where if you are truly 100% you, you're looked at weird.
If I'm truly 100% me, I'm looked at weird.
Like for work, for instance, at work.
Okay.
You can't fully share your beliefs about stuff.
No, I can't.
How much does that drive you nuts? A lot.
Only when I'm being forced to uphold beliefs I don't believe in. And they want me to do it in a way that looks like I do believe it, right?
When you
So-
have to compromise your
Yeah, like
Your
if I
core
feel like
value.
I'm actually enforcing something that I am deeply against and it's expected of me
I
to
gotcha,
do that
got
with
it,
a
got it,
smile
got it.
on my face as if I believe it. Like this is what I will say. People ask me a lot, "Oh my gosh, you're a flight attendant? Oh, is it just like crazy? Are people just terrible? I'm so sorry for you guys." I hear this like every week. And I honestly stopped leading with that in conversations a long time ago. I stopped telling people what I did for work because it was a failsafe. Everyone thought I was the most interesting person ever. And I was like, oh yeah, it's crazy. I was like, who am I without this? And so I put it away for a long time and was like, who am I without this? What do I do? What am I about? And it'll come into conversation and people are like, oh my gosh, like, have you had like crazy things happen? And I'm like, honestly, no, because I'm good with people.
Right.
And
Same here, 100%.
sadly, yeah, I know you know this. I feel sad that people don't realize that they are bringing it on themselves. And it's especially the people, if somebody is there's a couple different ways that it can be. If someone is so afraid of germs and like risk, they shouldn't even be able to be at work because they're dealing in a real big hypocritical situation, right? Like they are like, you have to do this, but they completely compartmentalize what our job is. And that drives me nuts. And I'm like, I'm very sad for that. The person who doesn't believe in it and then enforces it as if they do, that makes my skin crawl. I'm like, don't say it like that. Don't pretend you believe it. You can uphold something without coming into agreement with it. And I'm very it's important to me to keep it separate. So when I speak to people and I know that I have to enforce something, right? This is my job and I could actually be penalized in some way if I don't do it, then I'll be like, can I have you? Can you? I'm sorry. I hate it. Like I have to. I cannot let them think that I believe that
Like
because
you'll-
I don't, because the person who doesn't want to do it, that's me too, but I'm working.
You'll open it with, I hate being that person, but
Yeah. Like someone.
And then they're probably more receptive to it also.
That's what I'm
100%.
saying. So every time I get on the plane, first of all, silence the enemy in the name of Jesus, because that's what I do. And I've had no issues.
what'd you just say?
I said, silence the enemy in the name of Jesus.
What does that mean?
I walk into a space because we're existing in a spiritual realm and most people don't realize it. But I have authority. Like I have the Holy Spirit inside of me. I have authority to cancel and bind evil. I have that authority.
That's
and
way
it's
over my head.
well, I can definitely share it with you because it's a real thing that I've experienced multiple times. And we walk into spaces in craziness. Like I've been around conflict and I'll just start praying, but I'll first say I silence the enemy in the name of Jesus and things just start disintegrating. It's incredible. I mean, this isn't my superpower.
for you.
This is what
Hey,
the Holy Spirit does. And I
for
learned
you.
it from somebody else who taught me that I had that power. I'm like, no way. I tried it. It happened. It worked. We talk
And this
about it
is
all
why
the time.
yeah.
And so when I go onto the plane, that's the first thing I do. I silence the enemy in the name of Jesus because the enemy is a liar and his lies are what people listen to. Like, you're not safe. You're not safe. You're going to die. Oh my gosh, that person's not wearing their mask. They're going to kill you.
Oh my
They're going to
gosh.
kill your grandma. And so people think about that stuff and they're like, oh my gosh, they're not wearing their mask. It's a lie. It's a lie. And so I come at them with truth. And so I silence the enemy. First, I silence the enemy. Then if I really notice something like, there's something here, then I bind things. I'm like, I bind discord. I bind pride, or I bind whatever it is. I bind it in the name of Jesus. And people do not get out of hand. However, I tell everyone, if you have any issues with masks, I'll deal with it. You know why? Because I know how to talk to the people who don't want to wear them.
Right.
And they're like, what are you going to do?
Right.
They're like, oh, are you going to smack down? No.
Heck no.
I'm going to go up to them and I'm going to say,
I'm with
I
you.
know.
I know.
I know.
I hate it too.
And I can't do anything about it
I know.
here, and neither can you. So just please, I'm on your side. And they obey and they
Dude,
help.
even they should do it that way, the ones who believe in it, because it's effective.
But they can't. Their inner narrative is so like virtuous that they can't fathom that someone would not feel the same way, and it becomes super hyper emotional for them. I feel like I needed all of this understanding in order to do my job in this time
this
in
space.
life.
Yeah.
8 years ago, I couldn't have done it that way. I didn't understand it.
Whoa.
Now I know. So I can't let someone believe that I'm like, I really believe in this. I can't, because I don't.
Wow.
I'll enforce it because that's what I'm supposed.
my
Well,
job.
I'll say it,
Right.
or maybe I will just. What? I didn't
see
see
it
anything
happen.
at all.
Yeah.
But or I'll feed you all the flight, because miraculously when you're eating something,
Right.
you're safe.
Right.
Everyone's safe, actually. As long as you're eating or drinking,
Just keep drinking.
you're safe.
But meanwhile, you and Dallas over there, y'all didn't have a pandemic. Did y'all have a pandemic?
What's a panini?
Y'all didn't have no pandemic.
I mean, it was short-lived, and thank God for that, because to her point with like just feeling convicted about something, like I can't bend my knee to something that I don't believe in. Like,
Right.
I'm going to speak the truth in it, and I have when she's saying I'm fearless about it, like I have no fear of the repercussions of that, because I know God has my back as long as I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
That he tells me is the right thing. It's truth. So, I mean, in Texas, that is part of the reason why I love living there. It lasted very short, and people were kind of over it really quick.
Everybody
and
didn't die.
I don't know what the hospital rates were. I didn't
had a
follow
friend here
any
from
of
San
that.
Antonio
But
the other day, and he was like, "Do you guys still have COVID? Is it still going on?" Like a year ago, it was over back
It
there.
was,
Like,
yeah.
legit, the
September,
governor stopped.
I think, of like 2020,
enforcing
it was
stuff,
done.
yeah.
People were over it. So
Isn't that wild though? Because there's people who don't know.
there was
that.
never a vax mandate to go anywhere. Like
Nothing. You know what though? Here's the thing though. Could you have gotten vaxxed in Texas if you wanted to?
it was available.
Right.
Yeah.
That's America. That's what it should be.
Exactly.
I can do it if I
Exactly.
get to choose. If I want to do it, I do it. If I don't want to do it,
And people were much more tolerable of the differences of opinion on
They
it
were
in Texas.
respectful.
There was no shame over whichever way you chose it. It was like, great.
Here's what
As
I
long
think.
as you're not forcing it on me, like, I'm not going to shame you over your choice.
It's horrible that the shaming.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible. If I always think to myself, if the people who are into the vax respected the people who are not into the vax the same way that the people who are not into the vax respect the people who are into the vax, we would live in a beautiful
peaceful
country.
world.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
one side very much respects the other.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've never come across one person who's anti-vax who said I'm against other people who want it from getting it. I've never heard one.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
they
not,
exist.
That's not the stance.
Maybe
the
they
stance is
exist.
don't make me do
Right.
it. I don't think it's like you'll hear like I don't think it's wise that you do it. I
Right.
don't think it's good, but
Right.
it's your life.
Right.
This is the irony of a lot of what is happening in the world is with all of this tolerance for everything. The people that are claim to be the most tolerant are actually the most intolerant because when you disagree with their tolerance, they're very quick to like hate you for it when
Yeah.
like the reality is I'm just standing in my own conviction the same way you're standing in yours and I'm fine that you disagree with me and you're not fine that I won't validate what you believe because it's against my beliefs to validate you.
Right.
So
100%.
and why do you need my validation anyways?
I just
If
love
you're
it.
super confident in what you're doing and the way you're living your life and what you believe in, what do you care if I agree with it?
Right.
Who am I?
That's like
I'm
that.
nobody special that I need to agree with you.
Right.
That's how I feel very much about this person who reaches out a lot.
What do you mean who reaches
I
out a lot?
mentioned them earlier.
Hold on,
Reaches
let me-
out to almost
Who are you talking
everything
about?
I say. A person who would like to talk to me.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
got it.
Reaches out all the time. Always has something to say.
Are they on, do they think like you think or differently?
No, but they think they understand me. They think they're like, oh yeah, I get you. And I'm like, no, you don't.
But they think differently.
They think differently.
Got it.
And they want to like make sense of me and like, oh, is this your Enneagram number? And is this, and I'm like, you don't get it.
Yeah.
Like you think that you get me and you don't get me. And I am so comfortable with our differences.
Right.
I don't even think about it. And you think about it all the time.
Right.
Why do you care so much?
Right.
You don't even know me. Why do you care if we agree? It's crazy. It's a lot of energy to pour into someone that you will never see in person again.
Right.
Why?
Right.
So what I was going to say was you were saying like the differences between what's happening right now and the intolerance and stuff like that. I think a lot about the whole libertarian stance of like live and let live. However, that doesn't work in a world where people are not on that page. They are pushing for power. And so you can't take just a purely libertarian stance of like, you just do what works for you, because there are people who are coming and they're going to make other people do what they want them to do. So we have to pay attention, and that's, it sucks, but you can't just pull like, yeah, you just do you. We have to actually hold the line and stop people who don't believe that way, because they exist and they're loud and they want people to comply and serve their agenda. So as much as I would love to be like, you make your own choices, which I do say, on a greater sense, you have to hold the line for those who, against those who are pushing for you to do what they want. I really believe in freedom. You can do whatever you want. You do not get to change the consequences of whatever you want.
You could do whatever you
You
want.
can do whatever you want. You don't get to change the consequences. And that's, we live in a world that wants to redefine consequences.
Interesting.
You don't get to do that. And you don't get
Right.
to make other people do, you don't get to force other people to take these risks. Live at your own risk,
Right.
please.
Right.
Because everything you do, I was wondering, like, how many people have gotten hit by a car while wearing a mask? I'm curious, because I was in a parking lot and someone was not paying attention, but they were wearing a mask to be safe. And I'm like, how many people have been wounded or killed?
You've probably never seen that in Texas. People driving a car with their windows up with a mask on.
I have seen
You've
it.
seen it a few
I've
times?
seen it. Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like you're being so safe right here that you completely missed what's happening over here.
That is so funny. Every time I see those people, I'm thinking to myself, although to their defense, I did find myself a few times through the pandemic, like leaving Costco, had to wear a mask. And so I'm like,
Hands are
it sort of
full.
just stayed on my face with the cart. And then I put my stuff in the car, and then I started driving, and then I realized I had a mask on. So to all those people's defense, maybe they just left Costco. I don't know.
Maybe.
But if there is anyone out there who legit drives their car alone with the windows up with a mask,
Take it off.
yeah.
Okay, so I heard it was because they're worried about the germs of like removing and keep putting it on and off, because every time you do that, apparently you're like, I don't know.
But those people don't understand about germs on masks anyways then, because they'll wear
Yeah.
the same mask for 3 weeks. A paper
Right.
one. Like there was oh my gosh. There was a person who would not remove their mask to talk with me. And their paper mask was like hairy, you know, because it's like been like rubbed up on whatever.
On
I
their
don't
dog.
Oh my
It was like
gosh.
fuzzy. And I'm like,
Oh.
okay, then just take a new one. Okay. Like at least take a new one.
Oh.
And I just realized the other day, because I was talking to some lady at the storage unit place, and I'm just asking her a simple question, and she's like, she cannot even answer me
Why?
because she can't breathe.
Why can't she breathe?
She is like hypervent. I'm like, this woman's gonna pass out. She's holding on to the truck, and she's
Why?
and well, she got her mask on, and I'm like, I said, I just asked, can you just, is there a way to open this door? Because my sister went in and it closed, and can you get me in there? And she's not answering. And this woman's like, and I'm like, if you might want to take the mask. It might help if you take the mask off. She's like, that's not the problem, but thank you. Every person, and I've seen at least 5, who is about to pass out, I say, take off your mask, and none of them do. Why?
They're brainwashed.
Maybe no.
It
well,
drives me nuts. I'm just like,
maybe their job requires it.
no, this has never been when they're at work.
Oh, this is not at work.
No, this is when
just a
I'm
lady.
at work. This is a lady. This is a lady
she
who was
wasn't
just
working
in
there.
a parking lot loading up a car and is just about to pass out.
Yeah, it's difficult to breathe with it.
It makes me
sometimes.
upset. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But that's the thing. I mean, what it comes down to is there's really no equal respect. There isn't.
No.
Yeah.
There's no equal respect. And I guess it comes down to because one side's killing the other. And so how could we respect someone who's killing us? But also, I never understood, if I don't get the vax and you do, you're killing me.
Right.
You're killing me.
Right.
I'm not killing you.
Right. If you
I
took
never
it
got
and
that
it
one.
works, then what do
Yeah.
you care if I took it
I
or not?
really never got that one.
Haven't you heard the good news about one-way masking now? I
No.
know, like the CDC director was like, I know it's, scary, but you can actually do one-way masking, and you could wear 2 masks yourself, and you're going to be okay.
Oh,
Wait
so
a
they're
minute.
saying
So
you
I'm
2 and I 0.
Am I responsible for myself? That can't be right. That can't be right. But if you're not responsible, then I need to be responsible for myself.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm responsible for myself. I just can't. And you know what the thing is like, look, if you want to wear a mask, go ahead. You want to wear a helmet? Also go ahead. Like, you better wear a helmet to be safe, and maybe some gloves and some like bubble wrap. Like, if that's how you need to walk through life to feel safe.
But you respect them.
You can, but I won't miss the opportunity if we encounter each other to extend a hand and invite you into some freedom, because I
Right.
know it's all fear. I know
Right.
deep down that it's a spiritual issue of fear, and that's I can't perpetuate fear. I don't believe it.
Right.
I have freedom from fear.
Right.
Fear is not the promise of danger. It's just the possibility. Fear is the possibility of danger, not the promise.
It's funny you say that, the word possibility. I was listening to something about anxiousness, anxiety. I was listening, and someone said anxiety is being worried about stuff that haven't happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Which
all
is-
hypothetical.
Which is so interesting,
Yeah.
because I've found myself probably since my marriage. In my marriage, anxiety was the first. It up until that point, I never even knew what it meant or how it felt. I swear to, like, I'm so thankful.
Yeah.
I just went through life breathing good,
You did.
and everything was good. And then all of a sudden, but it's interesting because my brief marriage experience was during COVID. So the thought that came into my head when I started not being able to catch my breath, the initial thought was, it's the mask.
Well, that's part of it.
Well,
There's some
that's
major
what
psychological warfare with that. The
Maybe.
whole I can't breathe, and now we're all wearing masks and we can't breathe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Very
Yeah.
weird.
So that's what I thought. And then I realized, even without the mask, and then I started paying more and more attention to it. And all of a sudden I'm realizing this is what living in a shit situation feels like. That's it. And ever since then, I became so cognizant about listening to how I feel and paying attention and respecting it. Like if I'm doing something, I'm at a point these days where if I wake up in the morning and I'm in the shower and I have a hard time catching a breath, I know something's going on. I might not know in that second what it is, but I start taking inventory.
That's good.
And 9 out of 10 times, very quickly, I can accurately pinpoint, if I'm being honest with myself. It's not always easy to be honest, but sometimes it's things that you're excited about that make you feel that way. And you go, darn it.
That happened
It's probably
today,
not
didn't
right.
it? Oh, I'm just kidding.
No,
You're so excited.
no, yeah, but that's, and ever since then, so it's my brief 8-month marriage that really kicked things off, and ever since then I've been interested in, with anxiety. But back to what you're saying, it's about being worried about things that haven't happened.
Right.
Yeah.
So you experienced that, like there may have been more to that in your marriage because it's maybe based on history, but it's not a promise.
What do you mean?
It's not anxiety is a hypothetical. It's not a promise. It's based on some sort of experience, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen the same way. Like I was worried that you would be upset that we were late today. Right. And I'm like, oh no. And you completely were not. But it's because I've had an experience or many experiences where people have been unfair in their punishment towards me.
Right.
Where I'm like, okay, it really wasn't,
Right.
So it's based, it doesn't mean that it's unfounded, but it's all hypothetical.
It's so interesting how we work as human beings. Mm-hmm. The easiest way to understand anxiety and how it's all in your head is to realize that you're not anxious when you sleep. When you shut the switch off, and anxiety doesn't have room. Anxiety only fits when I'm thinking. And when I'm sleeping, I catch all my breaths. When I wake up, my heart starts beating. And then I can't catch my breath because my brain started thinking. But it's all the brain, which is so... Now, I might have a hard time falling asleep because my heart's beating and I can't catch my breath and my brain is thinking before I go to sleep. But once you fall asleep, for the most part, you're not actively thinking, which is really interesting. And that sort of really brought it into perspective where anxiety and my brain operating and being on are linked to each other, and it all starts there. How I feel starts here. But yeah, that out of all the things that marriage taught me, were you ever married?
No.
Yeah, out of all the things that marriage taught me,
Wow.
one of the biggest ones I'm most thankful for is just starting to pay attention to how I feel. And I'm shocked that I never, ever looked that way. I never even paid no attention to it, ever. I never thought in that
Feelings
direction.
are a really complex topic.
Feelings?
Yeah, and a lot of it starts in childhood and like the way that your parents respond to your feelings. Like, do they teach you to kind of like shove them aside or like just like, I don't know if gaslight's the right word, but like when you fall and hurt yourself and you're crying and they're like, you're fine.
Oh, they
you're
brush
fine.
past it.
It's like, they're clearly not fine. They're crying. So like you have to like explain that like, how are you feeling? Or it's like your body hurt or were you scared? And yeah, but the feelings really are like a roadmap of like how we're doing in life. And like, they're just a blip in time too. They never stay. They come and go.
Are feelings real?
Yeah.
They're real.
Yeah.
They're real to the person. Yeah, absolutely.
They're very real.
Huh. It's so interesting.
But feelings are like perspective.
How would they not be real? Like, what's your thought about that?
Well, what is real? What is it? Like, we're back to what we were talking about, showing up at 8. You're like, what's time, right? So I guess it's in how you define it. But I heard once you know how people say you should listen to your feelings?
Yes.
And then I heard another person say, who's like another doctor. So, like in medicine, there's all these opinions.
Yeah.
I heard this other person say that if you are someone who is broke. We're all broken on some level. Like no one's perfect, but if you're someone who's really like you come from a messed up background and you're in the process of working on yourself and you're getting better, but you're not there yet, and you're doing everything, then your feelings are many times sort of messed up, and they're not really making you like anxiety.
They're not trustworthy.
Right.
So one person says trust your feelings. The other person says don't listen to your feelings.
Don't listen to yourself, because you need to. You sort of need guidance from someone who does see things more straight than you do, at least at this point in your life. And then maybe later on, when you heal, you could start listening to your feelings. So it's a really interesting topic where. Do I listen to my feelings, and when am I good to listen to my feelings? It's a whole interesting thing, because sometimes our feelings are not what we should listen to, because sometimes they're not real.
I wouldn't say that the feeling itself is not real.
The feeling is real.
It's the thought that you have about the feeling. It's the way that the feeling makes you feel about yourself.
Right.
That's
that
not
might
real.
Not be accurate. Yeah.
I'm feeling this way. I must be, I don't know, crazy.
Yeah, what do you deduce
or
from it?
I feel this way. I must be, I don't know. I'm drawing a blank on it, but it's
right.
Yeah,
I hear that.
Your feelings can sometimes, you can feel shame for you're feeling a certain way about something, when really that feeling is trying to indicate something to like direct you in a certain way, and instead you're so clouded by shame over the feeling that, yeah.
I would say like. Your feelings are real, but that doesn't mean that they're trustworthy. And what's interesting is that the Bible says take every thought captive, not every feeling. Like, we're allowed to feel our feelings, but what do we think about the feeling?
Ooh, so what do you mean take captive?
The Bible says to take captive every thought, so that I'm not run by my thoughts. Because if I'm run by, then I'm being run by my feelings. That's not trustworthy. That's not a trustworthy way to move through life. And so, and because feelings can come from, again, childhood brokenness. They can also come from the enemy. Like, the enemy can just give you bad thoughts, bad feelings. Like, I got a bad feeling, and you don't know where it came from. It doesn't match your childhood, but you said you didn't have any anxiety until this other part of your life. So it's not like you had history with it.
Right, none. But I never even knew what it was.
Being able to take captive our thoughts is such a powerful thing, because you still acknowledge your feelings, but we have a baseline of truth that it's like a black light that we run this under. It's like, what is this? This is what I'm feeling, but what's the truth about this feeling? And something that we've really been doing together is this inner healing prayer, which fascinating that you had a trauma therapist on here, because I did 15 months of intensive therapy, and I was like, I need to learn to do this so I can help people. But I didn't want to go through all the training, and I didn't want to sit in an office, because people usually don't come to get help. I wanted to help people on the jump seat, because that's where they spill their stuff. It's your layovers, it's your jump seat. It's those conversations where people really need the help. And I'm like, I want to help, but how do I?
Right.
So I prayed and asked, like, God, if there's a faster way that you could teach me how to help people here. Because I went through all the hard work, twice a week, 15 months, PTSD counseling.
Holy cow.
Lots of money, lots of time, lots of energy. I mean, it was a lot. And I know that that's not that's not something that people are going to want to sign up for. It's what they need, but they're not going to do it.
Looking back, was it worth every penny?
It was worth it. But again, I'm not regretful of anything I've been through, because I look back and I go, okay, I can speak with authority now, saying I've done both. I choose this one. Right. This is the road I walked down. Within 3 months of that prayer, I had my answer, and it was this inner healing prayer. And that was one of the first conversations we had with each other. Have you heard of this? I just started doing this. I can't believe you've heard about it too. And so what it is basically is specifically the trauma therapy, because I wouldn't say that the rest of therapy reflected this stance. The trauma discovery part of it, we do that kind of approach in conversation with God. So it's not about me knowing very much, but it's about me being sensitive to the Holy Spirit and leading you through questions so that God can give you the answer. And then you're like, okay, I'm feeling anxious. I don't know why. So then we, in this training, and what we do, and this is how we live our lives now, is like, okay, well, let's pray about it. And it's like, what does that mean?
So next time I feel anxious, I should call you?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll do it.
Yeah. And so you could take something like that and go like, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what's wrong. You're looking for insight. You're looking for wisdom. And so what we do, without being religious and going, okay, well, you have to do these 10 things. No, we just stop. Okay. you ask, and I lead you through it, right? Holy Spirit, what am I feeling? I give you permission to search my heart, my mind, my will, my emotions. Lead and guide me into all truth that sets me free. What am I feeling? Anxious. Okay. When was the first time I started feeling this? Oh my gosh, I know when and it starts coming and it makes sense. And then you get revelation and resolution, which I don't think you always get in therapy. I think therapy is great. It's really cathartic, but I don't see a lot of revelation. I don't see a lot of growth in people. They just seem to be in therapy their whole lives. I graduated therapy, and she's like, you don't need to be here anymore. I'm like, are you firing me? Like, I want to hang out with you still. Can you be my friend? She's like, no, I have to stay your therapist just in case you need me. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to need you anymore because I think I found another way. This is like what we care about. This is what we do, because then we can come into any situation and with ourselves or call each other like, hey, girl, I'm just feeling like really stressed. Okay, let's pray about it. Lord, when I'm feeling stressed about, oh my gosh, I don't know where I'm going to live, or I don't know what I'm going to do about my job, or what do I do about this relationship? Okay, show me the true person. Show me what I need to know. And you're getting answers, and it's not coming from my mouth. It's coming from inside because God's speaking to her. And even you can hear it because he's God. He's not going to lie to you. That's so why we silence the enemy, because the enemy was like, oh,
just try it next time. Just give her a call.
I'll give her a call.
I mean it, yeah.
It's so
It's
important
cool
to have friends like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is so important. So few people have someone they could call when they feel anxious, or even do call. Even if you have someone to call, it's actually calling, and it's getting out of your head and getting out of yourself. It's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
I am very much the type of person, when I'm feeling down, I go inward big time. I stop communicating, and the toughest thing for me, it's almost funny, the easiest thing for me to do when I'm feeling up is to reach out.
Yeah.
The toughest thing for me to do when I'm feeling down is to reach out.
A lot of people are like that.
That's really common. I think it's also part of, like, when we keep saying the enemy, like, he wants to isolate you when you're down.
Isolate, yeah.
You know, it's part of that is, I think, spiritual too.
Like, how do you get
beings.
relief? Like, when you're having a hard time, because you're up. Like, most of the time, I would say that you're up. And
I'm
you're
an up person.
You're very blessed to already have that disposition. Like, that's easy for you. A lot of people, it's not. But you live there. But when you go down, how do you get relief?
How do I get relief? You know what I learned? This might sound crazy because it's probably the opposite of just having an answer to it. I learned, at least for me, I don't know about other people, that a lot of it is riding the wave. And it's something I've fought for many years. You know, when you're out there surfing, I don't surf, but I've heard this many times. You can't fight that big wave, right? All you could do is ride it really well, like go with it. And for me, I've discovered over time that the best thing I could do when feeling down is a few things, like you were saying, is acknowledge, come to terms with, really just admit, okay, here's how I'm feeling. And unless you do that, there's no real way out. There's only like, this sucks. So I've learned over time that feeling down or being down is just as part of life as being up. It's part of the rhythm.
Yes.
And the problem really begins when the period of time that you're down gets a little too extended. That's when we start entering into, is this person suffering from depression or whatever? So it's really that period of time. But just being down and having down times or days, completely normal. So, but not to dodge your question, but I don't know if I have a way specifically that I get out of it, as much as I've learned to effectively come to terms with it and ride that wave and just be in it and realize that I'm just as much as myself through it as I was yesterday when I was up, and I'm just as much, and life hasn't changed around me. It's all in my head, and everything's the same.
Well, for someone who schedules their life so much like you do, right? Does being down look like taking time away from that, or are you still going through all the motions and you're just feeling it inside, like 100%. Down?
Oh yeah.
So you don't like retreat?
No, my life goes on. Yeah, you know, when I say retreat, I mean someone will call me and I won't answer.
Yeah.
As opposed to when they're calling me on an up day, I'll pick the phone up and talk.
But you'll still go and like do everything in your life like normal, like nothing's
100%.
wrong. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I would never. Yeah. I guess
you would never like cancel
stuff. Yeah.
So then you're not really isolated.
No, this is. I guess it comes down to like a thing where it really plays out for me is my phone, specifically with talking, not texting. That's really where I could see the contrast. So when I'm on my up, very easy time. I love talking. You know, someone calls, I answer. It's interesting how that's an area where the contrast is really big for me because texting is similar. Like I could do that all the time.
Yeah.
But when it comes to talking on the phone, like if I'm in my zone and if I'm in my head and I'm just like in my head, then I would have a more difficult time calling someone or answering the phone and talking.
Interesting.
That's really where that plays out. Yeah.
Well, I think probably going through the motions of your life helps you to be more resilient through that. And that's interesting because a lot of people can't.
Do what?
Continue. Like they have to step back. They have to cancel and take time away and they retreat. And like what they do when they retreat may be helpful or not. But a lot of people are not able to push through. But you're also like one of the most driven people I've ever met. So
thank you very much.
Yeah, look at this, your hobby. Get out of here. My hobby is in like a plastic tub in my room. Like I'll get to it someday. This is a full production. That's incredible.
It's my hobby. What are your hobby? What's your hobby? What's your hobby down in Texas? Do you ride the bull?
I don't do that.
Are you a cowboy?
No,
cowgirl? There's
I'm
no
not.
such thing as cow. Is there such thing as cowgirl?
Yeah.
You just
It's
don't
more
hear
of
it.
like people that live on ranches, though. Like I
Sure.
live in
in
a
the
city.
city.
I live in Dallas.
So if you live in Dallas these days, it's just like living anywhere.
Yeah.
It's not like.
Yeah, it's a lot of going out to restaurants and
Do you have hobbies?
hanging out with friends. I don't know. Gosh. I mean, I've recently really liked to read books.
God, I wish I
Like
did more of that.
nonfiction and novels. Like I really like to read, and especially after I got rid of social media off my phone, it was a great exchange of that time to like read books. But I think I said maybe before we turned this on that like I've pretty much taken what I enjoyed as a hobby and made it a job. So, I mean, I love kids and I love working out, and now those are two things that I get paid to do.
Right.
So
you're the perfect person to talk about this with. I was talking about this with many people recently for some reason about this idea, this concept where once you get compensated to do something, your love for it, or I'll give you an example, flying.
Yeah.
Right. I was talking with an airline pilot. He actually introduced this idea to me, and we were talking about, you love, if you're a pilot, hopefully you love flying. But then I was talking with him about, becoming an airline pilot. And I think I asked him, I said something to the effect of, is being an airline pilot finally what you thought it would be? And he sat there and he said, you know what? It's my job. And we got into this whole discussion of like, I get compensated for it. Like I get paid. So it's my job. And it's really interesting how it's almost like you enjoy things much more
When you
if you
get
don't
paid.
get paid to do it. And so I'm curious if you felt a little less love for kids now that you get paid to take care of them.
absolutely not. That's
Interesting.
not true. I love kids all the same as I always have. I think it's not so much about the love goes away because now I'm getting paid. It's that my intrinsic value was always intrinsic. And even after I got an external value in addition to that, it didn't take it away from the intrinsic, which for some people that might be the case, that the extrinsic value becomes the focus and the intrinsic kind of disappears for whatever reason that is. But for me, I still have a lot of intrinsic value, and because I feel like it's in line with how God made me. And so I don't feel that getting paid to do something I like somehow makes me like it less at all.
That's good.
I don't.
I feel the same way.
And the other piece of it is I think it's also more of like, I try to not like compartmentalize my life into these like, well, this is what I do for work, and this is what I do for fun, and this is what I do for travel, like, and this is what I do with my family. Like, this is just my life, and like every day has like a piece of all of these things. And that's why I think so much when people are like, well, what do you do? It's like assumed for money, but like I do these things for everything because I like to just like use my whole time, back to the concept of time. I just like to use my whole time to just like live my life.
Right.
And so for me, it's like, I feel very grateful that I can do what I like to do and get paid to do that. I mean, isn't that everybody's dream?
Right.
You would get paid to just do fun things.
Right.
I get it. It's not the reality for everyone. And I get it that especially I think it's harder if you put a lot of years and time into whatever that thing that you're going to do for money is. And maybe that's the case with being a pilot, or maybe that's the case with medicine. Maybe you start doing it from an intrinsic place, and then the thrill of that intrinsic value wears off, but you can't walk away from it because you've invested so much time into getting to that point. Whereas for me, I didn't invest a lot of time to get where I'm at. Like, I just met people who had kids and was like, can I watch your kids? And from there it grew. So.
Whoa. Yeah, no, it's just, I hear you. That's fascinating. But you're right, though, because if what I said was true, then it would be almost impossible to love what you do, that whole thing that people say. So I hear you. I guess different for different people. But that airline pilot was saying
and how much value do you put on money?
Right.
That's true.
How important is money to you? I mean,
Right.
obviously you need money to live, but are you okay with where you're at in your life? Or
you want to know something
are you
interesting?
always wanting more? Or, and not that that's a bad thing to want more, but it's just different values for different people.
Right. When I think of money, when I think of making a bunch of money, my motivation is this will make me sound holy, but my motivation is giving it away. Like giving, like I picture, you know what gets me going? Not having things, but like picturing myself having a bunch to give, that just turns me on. And that's a big motivator for me.
That's incredible.
And for me, it's
Huge
my
motivator.
time is what I have to give. And so if I'm
Yeah.
sowing my time every day into like building these kids up and being of value to help these parents, so that like somebody who's actually loves their kids is spending time with them and teaching them things, like to me, that's the reward.
Yeah.
So the intrinsic value's there.
So you're a hippie in many ways.
Yes. I went through a hippie phase, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay.
I'm like a sorority girl.
You
went
see the
hippie.
world. So you're an interesting mix.
Yes.
Very unconventional. Whoa. Okay. Very like you're the underdog. You're going different. That's wow.
She's
That's
extremely multifaceted.
very interesting.
And I love that because I feel like people are so used to showing like two facets.
What do you mean?
Here's what I like to do. Here's what I do for work.
Yeah.
That
that's-
like people are just used to like almost this I don't know, it's just two facets. They're like, which one do you want?
But you know what though? That's what most people do all like we have only 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And if you spend 12 of it working and then 2 of it eating and then the rest
Right.
sleeping,
Yes.
you're not lying.
So if
That's
you
what
look at
do.
it like a pie, then you're like, oh, like what are your favorite slices of the pie? For me, like, and I really believe this is exactly how you live your life too, is what I was saying about living on that other plane with this understanding about timing. My highs are high. My lows are not as low ever since really getting to that place of understanding of
That's
like,
another good way to put
what is
it.
my life. My lows have never dipped as low as they used to because I have a baseline of like truth and knowledge and I mean it's a strong foundation. But what's interesting is that turns my pie, like that God is the filling of my pie. I don't know how to tell you about one slice of my pie per se because they're all related. You were asking me like, well, what do you do when you're not working? I'm like, all kinds of things because it all and when I work it feels just like that. I mean, other than the hang-ups with the personal conflict and stuff, but or the conflict of interest for my conviction to not wear a mask.
You do a
But
lot of ministry.
I do ministry all the time and it doesn't tire me, and I'd be okay. I feel weird getting paid for it, but if that's how I spend all my time and if that were to be a way that I made money, it wouldn't be a major hang-up for me. I just feel like I'm happy to do this for free, but I would, if that was how I was supposed to do it so I could have freedom and not be accountable to some other value system, I'm good with it. But the way that we walk through our days, the way that we use our time is in a relational sense. So God is like the filling of this pie and there's no part of it that's separate. All parts of it ring like sweet with this presence.
Like, I feel like he's in our work, he's in our exercise, he's in our friendships and our ministry and our family time and our conflict. So everything has this cohesiveness, and there isn't like one section of my life that's like, I don't like that. That's just what I do for money. Yeah. It doesn't exist.
And like, to go off your point earlier,
Did
with
you
like,
just raise your hand because you wanted to
well,
say
I'm
something?
like, I have something exactly. I have something that goes exactly off that point. Let's
Zoom
not
call.
don't change the topic yet. But like, when you asked the question before about like what kind of Christian, I think, or you asked if I was like religious, and it's
I asked
like,
what kind of Christian.
yeah, it's like, I'm just a Christian, and it's because it's like, I think so much of, at least in America, you hear Christian and it's categorized as a religion. Because it's like it's like this side dish of their life.
Ooh.
It's
It's a part of their pie.
of their life. Whereas I'm like, it's my whole life. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus is like in everything that I'm doing. And it's like, that is the rock. Like, that is the rock, which the Bible says to build your faith on the rock, not on the
firm
sand.
foundation.
Yes. And so I've lived a portion of my life where I worked a corporate America job straight out of college because it was the thing to do and it's what's conventional. And I was miserable and I was living for the weekend. I was escaping through partying and music festivals. And eventually I just hit this place where I was like, this is not even fun. Like, this can't be all life is about, where you work and save for your 401k and try to get a house and, you know, live for the weekend and just like, and so I feel very out of place sometimes, but that's why I connect really deep when I meet people who kind of have the multifaceted aspect to them too. I can still get along with the people still living the other way, but yeah.
And it's interesting because you were like, well, some people are like that. You know, some people compartmentalize. You were saying, you know, but there are people who don't enjoy what they do for work, and they or that they get paid for their hobby and then they don't like it anymore. Like, that's the case for some people. What I would say is a case that I recognize. I think I can tell when someone has the whole pie and the whole pie is the same flavor. Like, I can tell when someone else lives their life that way.
What do you mean the whole pie is the
when
same
I'm saying
flavor?
like, God is a part of every piece of my world, every piece. There isn't a part that's separate from him. And there are a lot of people who live and he's one piece of it. They're like, oh yeah.
Oh, I like that. That's so deep. It just hit me.
What?
See, you're saying everyone have a pie.
Yeah.
But not all pieces are the same flavor. I've never heard that.
Yeah. You ever seen Costco,
like
the
that.
sampler thing? Like, it's all different colors and it's disoriented and there's papers between them to separate them so they don't mix. That's not what kind of pie I am.
Whoa.
I'm completely integrated. And I find that I easily can find and identify other people who are also completely integrated.
How do you identify?
You just recognize it. It's like you recognize, you can recognize when someone's from Israel, right? You're like,
Most
oh,
of the time.
are you from Israel? I'm sure you can
That's because
tell.
they sound like this. What is the time?
You mean
What-
they're not reaching out to you
what
going,
is-
hey, let me put lotion on your head. Oh, you're so beautiful. Come here. Those were all the Israelis. I'm like, you're so handsome, but I don't want this foot scrub. Get away from me.
At the mall, right?
Yes.
At the
Oh
mall.
my gosh. So
Do they stop
handsome
you?
and flattering. And I'm like, get away from me. I don't need what you're selling, but you're beautiful. But no.
Hey, lady, can I ask you a question?
What do you do with your hair? All the time. Did you straighten your head today? Let me help you. You're so beautiful, but let me help you.
Give me your money.
Yeah.
Give me all your money.
Yeah, but you can tell there's a recognition, and I would just call it a spirit recognition.
Yeah.
You can tell, and we people outside of this would call it vibes. Like, you can tell the vibe. It's a spiritual recognition. You can see it quickly. Like, and it's self-explanatory. It's kind of like, I mean, yeah, it'd be like knowing someone from your hometown, or there's an air about people who live life that way. And if I were to tell you about like any of my mentors, and I have a lot of mentors and I really believe in mentoring and I just think it's incredible and underutilized, all of them, their life is a whole pie too. They wouldn't be able to say like, oh, what are your hobbies? It would be like, what do I do? Sometimes I do this, sometimes I do. It's all unto the Lord. And it is all in some way enjoyable still because he makes it enjoyable. Like, he makes the tough days good when you're at work or with family and like it's tough. Like, he is abundant. And that is like a way that you get to walk through life that it's priceless. And it's really sad because I think that a lot of people see that fractured pie and they're like, who would want that? Nobody likes that flavor.
You're crying right now.
No, I'm tearing. I tear up because it's
up.
like, it's so sweet. It's so beautiful. And like, most people don't know that you can live life that way.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to be cut up like that. We're supposed to be a whole piece, and he's the one that makes it a whole piece. But if you only keep him in one section, you will never be a complete pie, and you'll keep finding different flavors to substitute, and like maybe this will make it work. It doesn't work that way. He created it on purpose to need filling, you know, and he's the filling.
How do you, as two of you sound,
He's the filling.
the what?
Good.
Yeah.
He's the filling. That's a good
Yeah.
Like I talk a lot about how we're vessels, but
She
really we're
gets
like
great
pie. Yeah, that's my
visuals
language.
for everything.
No, she just said the pie being this, all
Yeah.
pieces being the same flavor.
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Another way to think of that, forget religion aside, because I'm not Christian. So a lot of what you're saying hits home, a lot doesn't.
Yeah.
But let's apply it to what does hit home.
Yeah.
Christianity aside, another way to say that my entire pie is made up of the pieces are made up of the same flavors is, am I showing up to all areas of my life as Yol? That's another way to think of it, not just Christianity, but like, does the true Yol exist in every one of the pieces of my pie?
Yeah.
And that's what it got me thinking.
Yeah.
And that's a really interesting thing, and I've never heard that. And
Like,
it's something I'll have to ponder.
I think very sadly, people today do not get to see a lot of wholeness.
Right.
And I mean, I really say like we're vessels. We are, you know, what do you call this?
Cup.
Okay. But if I had it over there and I said, can you pass me my water?
I'd pass you your water.
Yeah. You call it the water, right? But like we're a vessel. That could be an empty cup and it's just a cup. It's not water, but it's filled with water and now it's water. I'm filled with the Holy Spirit. Like God is in me. And so therefore he goes everywhere I go. He is a part of every part of my life. And it changes the way that I live my life. But we just don't see wholeness enough. And even like the friendship that we have, we don't see that enough either. You say, I don't, you know, when I'm low, I just pass through it. A lot of people don't know what it's like to be your bare self in front of someone and have them be safe and actually point you towards wisdom. Sometimes we understand companionship, but what about wisdom? Because that's what people really want. Understanding.
I'm just thinking about this. I've known Emily for many years before you guys ever met.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
Like we met
in 2015?
Wow. Then yes.
16? 15 or
20,
16?
gosh, it was in December. So
Probably
it was
2016.
It was probably the end of 2015.
15?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Can that be right? Maybe 2014.
No, 14's too soon.
You weren't there yet?
I was, but I was too new.
Okay, it was the end of 2015.
When you met me, I had my front galley first class down. Was I the A?
You were so funny.
Was I?
You were so funny. I was like, who are you? What is this?
Was I A?
I think you were my D. No, I was
what?
A.
You know what? Tell her how we met.
In the galley?
No, tell her the whole story. Like, you say you were so funny. So what?
It was so funny. I'm trying to think of like where we were on the jump seat and stuff. I think I was working A and I was on a crew and you were just our D.
No.
I don't know what the letters
actually,
mean, y'all.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, no.
Sorry.
So now I remember.
Okay.
I was A, you were D because you joined us in Kona. We flew into Kona without you, and you were the D out of Kona to San Jose.
Okay. That's right.
Yes.
That's true.
Yes. So I was A and you were D.
That's right. I had
Yes.
something really crazy happen on my flight before that, which I'm not going to speak about.
To
but
Kona.
yeah. And now I realize, I separated from the rest of my crew.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No. I don't understand. I feel like I was.
You weren't A. You were for sure D.
I was D.
You were
Okay,
D.
you're right.
Yes.
A lot of stuff happened. I was definitely D. So I was like the support for his role, kind of like he was working first class.
I was working first class. I made the announcements and the
I
whole
could
thing.
not believe it when I met you because, like, you don't. Okay, first of all, there aren't a lot of guys like you at work or in the world at all. Honestly,
What do you mean?
She did say that before I met you.
You're so unique.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why you should have your own show. I've been telling you that.
I should start a podcast.
You should start a podcast. You should call it YOLO. YOLO. Or like Talks YOLO. YOLO.
You just don't like the old Gilman show.
No, I do.
Yeah.
I think of you every time I see Gilman Drive.
Yeah, there is a Gilman Drive.
Yeah, I used to pass it and think of you every time. So I met you.
Okay, so
back
we're on
then.
the plane, and then what do you think? What?
I came on. I thought you were a lot older than you were, and then I couldn't believe he was younger
Everyone
than
think
me.
that, yeah.
But he was like,
Wait, you're younger than her?
he's 29.
You didn't hear in the elevator?
Yeah.
No.
I'm 29 years old.
He's 29.
Oh.
Right? How old did you
I
think he
missed
was?
the 30.
Well, I told you he might be
something.
like 33. I
She
couldn't
did
remember.
say that. But
Oh,
you would think
I
I
won't
would
ask
think
how old
33.
you are, but
It's okay.
We're all in our
We're
early
at
30s.
early 30s, yeah.
Yeah. So you were just like so. I think to that point in my life, like I was the only one I knew who was showing up like that on the plane. You were
What do
even
you mean
more so
showing
than
up
me.
like
Like
that?
you were so comfortable,
Personality.
outgoing, like easygoing. It was like you just got it. And
Oh
I'm like,
yeah, I'm very yeah. I
who
think
is
that's
this?
I think that's what made me appreciate you was the laid. That's why in the beginning when you started talking about being on the plane and having things ruin your day, I'm like, I can't picture that in you.
well, it was just like I was like flustered. I would recover, but I would like really focus on it. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I was gonna have a good day, and then I got random, and then this lady, and then, and I would come on like in a frenzy.
Got it.
And I would eventually adjust, but I would feel regret over like, oh my gosh, I was so stupid. I can't believe this happened this way. And it would be hard for me to let it go. Or like I picked up a trip with a friend and I show up and they're not there. And they didn't even tell me. And I'm like,
that would.
we were
dude,
supposed to, and I felt like a lot, just like,
that would kill me.
are you kidding me? You know, I would feel like abandoned and I would feel like it was wrong. And then something good would happen. I'd be like, oh, it was meant to be that. Like it was meant to be. Now I have different thoughts on that. Like when people say everything's meant to be, and we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, I used to just be like very, I wasn't solid. I wasn't solid. I wasn't on a firm foundation.
And I want you to. I love this because I don't think we ever revisited when we met.
No, I don't
so this
think we
is an
did.
interesting conversation. But I do very much will tell you and even you more than any other person I know probably. You've grown so much, like growth. No, you really have. Like it's incredible. Yeah, because even 2 years ago when we were meeting, I think you were in therapy.
I was.
Yeah, you were like
yeah.
deep in the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's incredible. Like it's amazing.
you.
Like you really took it seriously. I think
yeah.
it almost feels from my perspective like you reached a point in life
Yeah.
where you finally realized that if I don't do something about it, my whole life I won't have my life.
Absolutely.
And if I want my life, I have to put my foot down and do something about it because I'm not getting any younger.
Absolutely.
That's how it feels like.
That's exactly
from
what
my
happened.
perspective. Yeah.
When I was 25, like
Yeah.
the last day of my 25th year, I was like, I got to change something. I can't go through another year like this. I'm not
Yeah.
okay. I hate everything. I hate myself. I hate everything and everyone. And I hate. I feel nothing. I don't want to do anything. And I'm just
And
over
we met
it.
when you were.
We met when I was, okay, let's see. I must have been like 25.
So we met right then.
Only that year? No, I feel like I had to have met you when I was 24.
So we met before you felt that way.
No, I hadn't reached my rock bottom yet.
You haven't reached your rock.
I was spinning.
Once you meet me, you reach your rock bottom. That's what happens.
No.
You'll remember it. You'll be okay. You'll figure it out.
Want to
You'll
reach
be okay. You'll figure it out.
Want to reach your rock bottom?
Yeah.
Meet yo.
Yeah. Okay, I remember. So I was living in San Diego. It was 2015. It was coming up on my rock bottom time. Yeah. I think I hit it decently well. I mean, there's a lot of people who didn't know what I was going through. I was suffering from PTSD, major depressive disorder, and generalized anxiety disorder. And I didn't know it.
Whoa.
I didn't know it until I was 26. So I met you in 24.
So we're on the plane.
Yeah. And I still would show up to work happy and cheerful, but like you could knock me like just a little bit and I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is supposed to happen.
So there's no
I would
foundation.
no, not a firm foundation. I had a foundation. It just wasn't firm. There was a giant fissure because of my trauma. So came on the plane and you're just like an explosion of personality and confidence and energy. And I'm like, I felt topped. I'm like, that's me. But you're even more than that. So I was like, this is funny. Who are you? And I was just asking you, and I thought you are so comfortable. You must have been here a long time. No. And I'm like, oh, you must be like 30 something. And at that time you were like 23. How old were you when you got hired?
I got hired at 21.
Okay. When did you get suspended for sitting in a passenger seat?
I was
That's
suspended
when I met
for like
you.
a week or two.
Yeah.
It's probably right before we met.
No, it was after.
Oh, I
You
got
came down
suspended
to
after?
visit in San Diego because you were suspended.
Good memory.
I know. I'm trying to piece it together. So what year was that? How old were you?
I remember
You were
it
a
happening.
baby, and I'm like, you don't have baby energy. You're like a adult, real man with a full blown personality and confidence, and like you're comfortable here, and you're like unique. This is weird. This is funny and weird, and like this is such a surprise. And so I was very like, I haven't met somebody like you. I need to know what is going on in your head and how you became this way. You know.
I remember, and then it was 4 hours of talking.
Yeah. We
5
were flying
hours of talking.
Hawaii.
On the plane?
Flying home from Hawaii. Yeah.
On the jump seat.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you just talked forever.
I talked.
We talked forever.
Yeah. Yeah. It was interesting. It's every once in a while you meet someone and it's different from all the other people that you meet. It's different.
Here I am.
No, it's different. And it's incredible. And then there's also, we haven't seen each other for 2 years.
Yeah.
And even 2 years ago, we just grabbed a tea.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen each other for 4 years. Really?
Longer than that.
Longer
right?
than that. And it's like you
5,
just left
6,
off
7.
yesterday with some people.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting.
I mean, before you came to visit in San Diego, like I don't remember the timing of that very well, except that I know we met in the end of December. And I know that like some months went by because you came to visit in San Diego in like the springtime probably.
Mm-hmm.
But we would talk all the time. I mean, we would talk on the phone for a long time. And I was like, this guy's so funny and interesting. And like, this is like really refreshing. And I had just gotten out of a relationship too that was like very, like not a good match for me, like personality wise, but I was just like dying to be in love. And I mean, he loved me. That was great, but there wasn't a lot to talk about. So I was just like feasting on conversation. Like, this is so nice to just talk with somebody interesting. And it wasn't a romantic thing. It was just like, we just got it and it was funny. And like, I think it felt safe in most contexts. It felt safe to just like chat. And I thought you were really different, and you are. You're a completely different kind of a person, which is great. You're unique, and like you do it well. You're like comfortable. Yeah, you're comfortable in it. It's not like.
Well, I am who I am. Yeah, I appreciate it.
So I feel like you show up as Yoel in the areas of your life.
I do, and more so. I mean, hopefully we're all growing our whole lives, but really more so. Recently than ever.
Yeah, well, you feel more solid now. Back then you did seem a little like reckless, and it scared me. Yeah. Like when you came to visit did I realize. I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Who is this guy? Right. Like, you just like don't have any rules, or like I was thinking about the cultural differences of like how you navigate the world, like how you navigate the world. You know, like personality wise, I think that we really understand each other, but like I would still operate from like, but this is how you have to do this back then. And I was like rigid about it. And you'd be like, what? It's fine. Oh, well, relax. And I'm like, just nervous. Like I felt like nervous. Like, can you do that? You know, there was a little bit of me that was like,
interesting.
This guy is playing from a different book, and I'm not sure where the boundaries are because they're further out than mine, you know?
Yeah, definitely the culture I grew up in is different.
Yeah, there was like a boldness or like a, what do you call it? Not a bravado, but like there was a confidence that felt like a little bit reckless, not on purpose, but like you just didn't know that you needed to be prudent in some of these areas, you know?
Right.
Like, I'm trying to think of examples. I'm like, you can't do that. And you're like, sure I can. Like, what? Hey, lighten up. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you can't do that, can you? So I was really like rigid in some of my ideas back then, for sure. I really thought there was like kind of one way to do it. I was raised in a great family, and like it felt like a best case scenario. So like, well, then that's the way you do it. And that's the best way.
Were you raised sheltered?
Not really. No.
Because and this is an interesting thing. So my ex, and I never really realized this about people. I am the most non-sheltered thing ever. Like part of it is growing up in Israel. Part of it is my personality. Part of it is everything. But I've been living on my own. I've been fully paying my own bills since I turned 18. And before that, I wasn't even living at home, but my parents were. But yeah, just and then I married the opposite. And that's when I really realized, like, there's sheltered people. That's when I realized that it could be a detriment to people. Because being sheltered. I always thought, you're sheltered. Okay,
Look
you're
at your
not
monkeys.
exposed. What do you mean?
No evil, hear no evil.
I don't even know those
monkeys.
Things. I don't even know those things about monkeys. I don't know why I like monkeys. But that's when I realized that being sheltered could be so bad for someone, because when they get out into the real world, they don't know how to handle it.
Yeah, I agree.
Very true.
It's crazy.
I've seen it happen in college, partying.
You've seen people
just not being able to handle like alcohol.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know how to deal with real people with circumstances that annoy me. Like, it was my parents dealing with all that, and then all of a sudden now it's on me, and it could be a big detriment. I didn't realize that until.
Did you ever get in trouble, like when you were younger, because you just thought you could like do certain things and people were like, you can't do that? And did you ever suffer any consequences from that at a younger age?
Yeah, I was a rebel. You couldn't tell me what to do. I was the kid. I still am, but I could control it because I'm an adult. But if you told me to do something, I would do the exact opposite, 100% opposite. That's just that's how I was. That's how God made me.
Yeah.
And but yeah, today I could. But yeah, that was my personality. I was a big rebel. I always joke, because I was raised religious, and today I'm not. But I always joke, if I were raised by a pair of atheist hippies in Malibu, I would be in Israel in a religious institution right now, because I would always be a 180 of what I was raised. And because I happen to be raised there, I'm here. That's almost like a joke, but it's kind of like I was always destined to be the exact opposite. And because I happen to be born and raised in that, then the opposite of that is this. But I'm not this, you know what I mean? So that's sort of jokingly how I always said it. And it's kind of half true.
I think there's some truth to the disposition of that. But I also see things so differently now. Like, I have an understanding for qualities that I have that I used to think were like not a good thing. I didn't understand where they fit in this world.
You used to think qualities were not...
Some of my qualities were like a bad thing because I didn't know how to use them.
Like what? Your voice.
My voice? Like how loud I am?
No, not loud. But your voice. Like your
being
ability...
Being outspoken or loud or...
I'm sure at some point you didn't know how to properly use it.
Yeah. There were times I got like in trouble, I guess, with like my words or stuff. Like even relatability and stuff. Like I'm trying to think of like a full example for you of experiencing something and then growing and figuring out where that actually fits in this world. That it wasn't an accident that I'm like that way, that was an intentional thing, but it has a purpose. It's like a key to a door I didn't know existed, and now I know. And like, that's a key of who you are. That's one of the pieces of who you are, is that you're able to stand against, but it doesn't mean that you were destined to be against just the complete opposite of how you were raised. If you have the boldness, the confidence, and the conviction to be able to stand against something, you don't seem to particularly care what it is. You say like, oh, it could have been this and then I would have been that. That kind of leadership. It's leadership in you, just without a home yet, right? Like, you don't have a door for it yet.
Right.
But like, you will be a great leader. Actually, I see that over you. I see that you will be a great leader. And to you, you've been alone walking around this and figuring out your life and stuff. But there's great leadership in the ability to comfortably stand against.
Interesting.
And, yeah. And I was like that too a bit growing up, and I didn't see why I didn't fit. And now I'm like, oh, good. I don't need these people's approval. I'm happy to stand and take the criticism and stuff like that. Yeah. it's reminding me of like my words was a big one. My voice. I used to be able, now that I'm thinking about it, I used to be capable of some really eloquent, harsh words.
To receive or to give?
To give.
Ooh.
Like, but only when being attacked.
Your mouth is your weapon.
It is. And power, life, and death in the tongue. Yeah.
Did you guys just say the same thing?
Yeah, we did.
At the same time?
It's a Bible verse.
Yeah.
The power of life and death is in the tongue.
It's 100% true.
It's true. And so when I was younger, if someone it was only reactive. I wasn't doing it to be a mean girl. It was like when my feelings were hurt, then I could come up with some like really
but like specifically
creative,
pointed.
Oh yeah. Like very intelligent, hurtful, painful things. You know, and it wasn't vicious. It was just true. Like I knew how to pick out true things and see them through that lens,
Those
and
hurt
then
the most.
and then share them. Right. So I would be able to do that. And I was thinking about. I heard Jordan Peterson say that if you are a peaceful person and you are not capable of great harm, then you're not a peaceful person. You're harmless. And I was like, oh. Because
dang.
Yeah. Because those words were applied in the wrong direction. But I am able to eloquently identify evil, injustice, wrong, lies, deceit, all that. I can call that stuff out, and I need to be able to speak clearly about what that is, and being able to control my words. And it in this area of my life now, like being resilient to other people's words, I don't know, it's really helped me. Like I asked God to change my vision for people. I wanted to see people how he sees them. And it's incredible because I do have that in me. Like it's still there. I have the capacity. I think we are like, we are like measuring cups, right? And like on both sides, like as good as your capacity is, your capacity for evil is the same. And so I wanted to clear out whatever was not honoring people, whatever was not honoring God. And it took me a while to get there. But then I have even more capacity to be compassionate, to be loving, to be accepting, to be kind. But I also had the capacity to be very cruel, you know? And so that's amazing to me. I see every part of my life like that in a struggle. If I struggle with something, I'm like, wow, then that tells me that I have the capacity. If God changes me, which he does, and I don't have to do a ton of work, I just have to submit and let him remove the things that are not good. Like the Statue of David, you know. The Statue of David was carved out of marble. And Michelangelo just removed everything that wasn't David. They're like, how did you do it?
Oh.
He just removed everything that wasn't David. David didn't have to like climb out. He just be still and let God remove the things that are not me.
Interesting.
That's what it's been. And so he has transformed so many parts of my life where I thought I had tremendous capacity for like, you know?
Whoa.
Yeah.
You've grown a lot. I have to talk about this with you because it's clearly something that is important to you.
What?
You said it a bunch. Boundaries, right?
Yes.
Right. It's one of your biggest things.
Yeah.
You've gone through 15 months of therapy. So like, how do you see boundaries now as opposed to how you never probably saw them?
Necessary.
Yeah.
I read a quote and I actually just said it to a friend the other day, or about a friend. Boundaries are because I want to have a relationship with you. Like boundaries are uncomfortable for people, right? It's like, it's startling to see a boundary exercised, but people misunderstand because they're so not used to boundaries. A boundary is because I want to have a relationship with you.
Love that.
If I don't want it, I'm not even going to try for a boundary. You're just out. And so I've had to learn it in a lot of different ways. And it was that was a big struggle in my life in a lot of different areas. And I think so much of that, a little bit of being raised like codependent, it was like partially being raised in like some codependent relationships, my mom, my sister, like being so close, but then feeling very responsible for other people. And I just couldn't break free of that. It was all channeled through love. So it didn't look like a bad thing. but it was like destroying my life.
Whoa.
Yeah. So there was the codependent side of it. And then there was like people coming in and like, do I trust this person until they prove to me that I shouldn't? Or do I make them earn my trust? Or what about access? Do I let people have full access to who I am? Because I wanted to be genuine and show up as I was. But how do you trust people you don't know? So I just lacked wisdom in those areas. And I would, even in my love and my desire to be generous for people, I would let them take advantage. And then I would be like really resentful. And so I had to lay it all down and go like, I honestly don't know how to do this. I'm good with people, but like, I don't know where to draw any lines. And a big piece of losing that was going through sexual assault. It's like, it's like spinning for a long time until you ever get healing.
So you went through sexual assault?
Yeah, when I was 22.
Oh.
So you met me at a really bad time in my life. It's funny that it didn't show, I guess, that much.
Well, you know what's funny? Hindsight is 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And let's put it this way. If I knew you then and I would never not know you today, I would probably walk away thinking, oh, that was Emily.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing you today
Yeah.
and having the ability to look back, I can clearly see how you lacked in all these things that you're describing, which is also how I could sit here and say that you grew so much.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Because I could compare the two.
Yeah.
But no, at the time, in and of itself, you were just Emily.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think anything of it. Of course, I mean, it's not like you shared about yourself then as you are right now.
Yeah.
In hindsight. But now I could totally, just like I'm sure with me in some areas, you could look back and say, okay, when I met him, he was like you just said.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I was reckless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Less grounded. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, the hard part is like, I always had a really big heart for others forever. And compassion without boundaries is really detrimental.
Horrible.
Like God didn't create it that way. He gave me my heart for people, but that doesn't mean it's a free for all. It's not. You can't do that and thrive. And it took me a long time to understand that. I felt so responsible for people, and then I didn't know where to put certain people. Everybody had equal access to my life, to me,
That's tough.
to my space, to my money, to my, it was really, really painful to go. And I just went through it over and over and over and over again. And going to therapy was like, I already knew I had issues there. I tried to read like boundaries. I tried to read codependent no more. The stuff made sense, but wisdom is knowledge applied. You have to apply it. Otherwise, it's just knowledge.
Interesting.
So I didn't get it back then. But now, oh my gosh, between going through the counseling and just everything else that God was doing in my life and really pursuing wisdom, the Bible says that God gives wisdom without fault. If we ask for it, he'll give without finding any fault. Like, how could you be so stupid? Like, I'm not going to help you. No, if you ask God for wisdom, he'll give it to you, no matter who you are. It's like a principle. And so I really was seeking wisdom, and I eventually did find it. And he really gave me inner discernment on how to have good boundaries. And sometimes it was other people speaking into my life and going, hey, that's not wise. And I'd be like, and it hit because there's truth inside. Like, it matched up. It was like a magnet. And so I had to humble myself. And many times I learned it the hard way first. They would tell me and I'd be like, yeah, but I think I'm like this way. I'm like different than that, though. I'm capable of more than that. And so even where people would say like, this is wisdom, and I'm like, that looks kind of like legalism to me. So I'm going to do the opposite of legalism. They're close to each other. They're just different.
Huh.
So I would run in the other direction and then get burned really bad. I'm like, okay, I guess I got to reel it in. And now I feel so confident about the boundaries that I set in my life. And we still talk about them. Like, it's a big topic of conversation, and it's still uncomfortable to exercise them.
What was it at 25 that made it rock bottom for you?
Well, I had been like years into it. I had been years into like this deep trauma, and I just was sick that my life was nothing like I thought. And I kept thinking, I can't believe this is my story. I would look at the details of my life and I'm like, I would lead with like, oh, I'm a flight attendant. And then everyone would think everything was all great. Like, here's my two facets. But behind that was so much regret and sorrow and like accidents. So much of my life was like accidental. Like, oh, I didn't mean for that to happen. Lack of boundaries. I didn't mean for those things to happen, and somehow I became nothing like who I ever desired to be. And I couldn't reconcile it. I'm like, I know I'm better than this. I know that God created me with these talents and these gifts. And like, why am I like this? Why am I behaving this way? Why am I entertaining these relationships? Why can't I get it together? And I just was sick. Like I couldn't figure it. I couldn't pinpoint it. And I didn't know what was wrong with me.
It just made you sick to your stomach.
It just made me sick. I didn't feel like doing anything. I felt overwhelmed and anxious and just sat and like, there was just no relief. And so I finally was like, God, I can't do it anymore. You have to move because I'm over this. Like, I wasn't suicidal, but I was like as close to hopeless. You know, there was still like the light, and I knew it was there, and I knew it wasn't going to go away, but I was like as close to hopeless completely as I could be.
Right.
I had to change. And there I was willing to lay down everything I held back from God. Truly, I had said, he's the whole pie. He was a piece of the pie. And I'm like, yeah, I'm one flavor. And I couldn't deal with these other areas of my life. I had to give him access so he could come in and handle it. And when I did, he moved quickly. And it was like, it was life-changing.
Whoa.
Yeah. Like, I thought I had been doing it. Like, it's like if it was a cherry pie, I had like a slice of cherry pie, but I had all these other things in there too.
Right.
And I'm like, no, I'm a cherry pie. And people are like, you don't really look like a cherry pie. Like, there's a little bit of cherries in there, but I don't think that's cherry pie. And I'm like, yeah, this is what it looks like to, love God and be, and I couldn't see it until I really was just out of options. And it was a scary place to be like, I'm not excited. It was January 5th.
Oh, you remember
the day
the
before
date?
my birthday, the day before my 26th birthday, and it was a new year, and I was like, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to celebrate. I don't want a cake. I don't want to see anybody. I am not excited about this year, and I'm not excited about my life, and I hate everything.
Oh, that's rough.
You didn't know me then.
I didn't know you then.
I mean, we weren't in contact.
Right.
But God showed up that day.
Wow.
Yeah.
How'd he show up?
I had been running from these people. I knew they would change my life. I didn't want to see them. I knew them since I was a child. And when I moved to California for that first 5 years, they would reach out to me. Hey, we want to see you. Come see us. And I'm like, I just knew that my life would change and I wasn't ready. I'm like, let me go party. Let me go. I love God, but let me go do my thing. And I had just lost 50 pounds. I want to be cute and date and whatever. I didn't want to grow in my faith.
Right.
I thought I could have my cake and eat it too. And
Yes.
it was just, it was terrible. I'm like, am I doing it wrong? This is not enjoyable. I'm miserable. I'm sad. Is everybody else having fun? I'm having a terrible time. and to this day.
Are y'all having fun?
Yeah, y'all having fun? Because this sucks. Yeah, and nobody wanted to be around me. My family didn't even want to be around me. That was painful.
The energy.
Oh, man. And so I finally stopped running from them. And I said, can I come to your house? It's my birthday. I don't want anything. I just need to come pray. I'm desperate. And they were like, absolutely. So I drove over there and I cried the whole way. It was like an hour and a half and I was just weeping. And I'm like, God, you have to show up. I'm not going to make it through another year like this. I can't. And I showed up and they just read my mail. They just knew. And they said, are you ready? And I was like, yeah, ready for what? What do I have to do? And they're like, are you ready to surrender? And I finally realized, my whole life, I have this, a hot air balloon. And I'm like, you guys, God's so amazing. Hot air balloon filled with the hot air, right, on the ground. You guys, flying's so amazing. I'm flying right now, and, I'm in a hot air balloon, and it's so amazing, and you need to do this, and you need this. And to other people, it looks like I'm just in, a little box, and I'm, got some hot air in me. I'm not any different, except that I have a box around me. That doesn't look better than what I'm doing right now. And the ropes that were holding me down were all these areas of my life that I actually didn't trust God. Whoa. And I would not let him touch my job, my schedule, my friends, where I lived. He didn't have any access. I'm like, God, I love you. Fill me up. Fill me. He's like, I've filled you, but you will not let me set you free and like let you fly. And so that meeting with them was like taking an axe to every area of my life and saying, you know what? I've been really scared of what God would choose for me if I let him. So I was like, but whatever. I did my best. I picked the friends I wanted. I tried the trips I wanted. I had the job I wanted. I lived where I wanted. And none of it fulfilled me. None of it gave me peace. None of it did anything that it was supposed to do. And I thought I had God in it, right? Like I had a relationship with him, but he was not my Lord. He was my savior, but he was not my Lord. I released everything and my life changed forever. And it wasn't easy after that. It got easier. But it started the process of healing for me.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I've never been the same. I have a tattoo from it. I was like, I know this year's going to change my life. I don't know why.
Wow. It's what you just said is so powerful. I was afraid of what God would choose for me if I let him.
Absolutely.
Wow.
All because of one thing, truly. Because of one statement from like my sister when she was, I don't know, 13 or 14 years old.
Uh-huh.
And I let that shape my whole life.
What was the statement?
I'm glad you asked. I don't
Come on now.
She didn't, I think she must have been like 14. Maybe she was a little bit older than that. She was young. She was still like in high school or middle school. And somehow it came up of like wanting a Christian husband, right? Or like
for her or for you?
Wanting, like desiring a Christian husband. She's 6 years older than me, so it wasn't about me.
Right.
It was about her. And she didn't want a Christian husband because she didn't want to marry our cousin's husband, who was married to our cousin already, because he was a Christian. And apparently he was the only one. She thought, that's what that looks like, and I don't want him.
Because that was the only example of a Christian husband that she had.
But it wasn't.
Right.
It's just the one she went to in her mind. And our cousin ended up marrying him. So he was like the youth pastor. And then they ended up getting married. And to her, she's like, I don't want that life. Like, I don't want to live there and do that. Like, I don't desire that. And so she immediately was like, that's the only way that's going to turn out in her youth and her immaturity. That's the only way that's going to go. Not thinking of all the other examples she knew. And so she would say that, and she would always refer to him and think like, I don't want someone like that, because that was maybe the only single adult Christian that she could like really see in her mind. And it never occurred to me. Like I took that on myself. I was like, I came into agreement with that. And I was like, yeah, I don't want that either. Like I want like a Mexican, like I want to, I want this and this and this. Right. And it never occurred to me that like that guy, first of all, he's our family. That Mike, he's married. Okay. That was never on the table for her.
Right.
He's what are we talking about?
But she didn't mean him. She meant that.
No, but like, right.
They're all the same way.
But she would always use the same example. And it's like, okay, there's only one of that person anyways. And he's married to our cousin. Like, that's not even an option, Right. So what a silly thing to let shape your entire idea. But it never went away. And this is what I learned through the inner healing stuff. Is like those inner vows, those beliefs that we have when we're young, it doesn't matter how unrealistic they are. If they're in there, it's like leaving a DVD in the DVD player, and you get the newest TV and you turn on and this old DVD is still in there. You just forgot to take it out. It'll still play.
Oh, that's powerful.
So like inner healing.
What DVDs are you carrying around?
I was going to say VHS, but I'm like, okay, even a DVD, you connect to a new TV and it'll still play the last DVD that was in there. If you don't go change it, it's still just going to keep playing. Mm-hmm. So we go in with inner healing and we ask God, okay, what's in there that needs to not be in there anymore, and he'll pull it up. Oh, remember, here's Holes, or like here's I don't know, what's not a great Holes was a great movie. What's like a great, not a good movie, but you watched it and it's just stuck.
Here's the two shows I watched: Dexter and Prison Break.
Oh, did you watch the new season of Dexter?
Is there a new one?
Yeah, they remade it this year.
Oh, I gotta watch it. Is it good?
I couldn't get through it.
That means it's good.
No,
it means it's like there's stuff going on.
No, she couldn't get through. That means she
couldn't
keep watching it. It was too hard.
It was like kind of cringy. It wasn't great.
Got it. Okay.
Maybe they found their stride, but at the beginning it was so like
You probably should have
love
just
that.
left this.
So I'm curious. So now that were you, by the way,
Sorry, that was long.
similar? Oh yeah, no, this is a great sidekick. This without you, this wouldn't be what it is. This is incredible.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's incredible.
Okay.
That's true. We
It's
will be
a-
having a different kind of a conversation.
It's incredible
here.
how
Yeah.
just by being present, it's a whole energy. It's a
Yeah.
whole thing. It's
Okay.
don't downplay your presence.
Yeah.
Were you raised religious, or you two sort of discovered it?
Well, let me differentiate really quick. I was raised in a Christian home, but I wasn't sheltered. And like we always had that as a foundation, but I felt like God spoiled the fun for me early. Like I knew when I was like in middle school that God had like a big thing for my life. And I was like, wait, no. Like I just wanted to. And so my whole life up to that surrender point was like, I knew he was like, hey, I have something completely different for you. Come with me. And I knew he was real and I knew it was true. And I was like, ugh, but I really want to go party. Or like, I really want to, and so I did. And it never was good. And I'm
Right.
like, so it was I was just running and I
Right.
still loved him and was like, see you, God, I love you. But I could not let him have access to my life. And when I did, it all clicked. And I was like, this is what it's about.
Whoa.
What I lived before, I think many people live and they call themselves Christians and that's who you encounter. There's not a lot of people who are like actually surrendered.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing is like, is Jesus your savior? Sure. But is he your Lord? Because he's either Lord of all or he isn't Lord at all. And I wouldn't have been able to answer that question younger. I was lying to myself for sure, thinking that he was number one. And a lot of people do. They're like, oh, God first. So she was raised Catholic. That's
God
different.
first.
You know,
You were
God
raised
first
Catholic.
and here's my ass. Like girls
first.
online, they'll be like, God first. And then they're like naked.
God
I'm like,
first and here's my ass. That should be a t-shirt. God first and here's my ass.
but anyway, so mine was non-denominational Christian upbringing, like had the foundation but not the surrender down. Hers was religious Catholic, which I don't know that much about.
So now that you know everything you know,
Yeah.
how did it change the way you guys date, guys? Like, is there a whole vetting process, and are you a God guy? And I'm like, what does that look like? Is that scary?
Well, we can
vetting?
definitely talk about that, but let her tell you her quick story of how she got to where she is right now, because it's interesting.
I don't know if I want to say all of that.
Well, do you want?
I'll give you a high level. Like, I was raised Catholic, went to Catholic school, and I feel like I knew Jesus at a young age, but it was always this thing. And I prayed at a young age, and I believed that like Jesus was, you know, the savior and he died on the cross. But I thought it was just something that happened after you die. Like, and Catholics believe in this place called purgatory, which is like after you die, you go to purgatory, which is like a waiting room, and people on earth have to like pray you out of it, and then you'll get to go to heaven.
Oh.
Or else you're just waiting in purgatory, which is not biblical.
It's not in the
And
Bible.
so I don't know where they get.
very-
I don't
it's
know
very
where they
religious.
made this idea
I love
from, but
Emily leans in and says, "It's not in the Bible."
She just said it's not
FYI.
biblical, but it's not in the Bible.
yeah, so that was just kind of my understanding of all of it. And then I went to college, and I still, you know, went to Catholic church and identified as Catholic. And then after college, I found myself really disappointed that like I didn't get what I thought was going to happen by like following all the rules and being like a really good girl. And so I, you know, was still doing the thing, like doing the job and the car and the apartment and like doing what everyone else is doing. Right. And then I just found myself really hopeless and just like upset, and suffered a lot of depression through the years. And so I kind of abandoned it, and I started to be like, well, what do you believe? And like I got into like Hinduism and Buddhism and never really Judaism, because that one's pretty clear by blood.
Do you ever want to be a rabbi?
No, but I always wanted to have a bat mitzvah.
Okay.
When I
They're
was
fun.
little,
They could
they
be
were
fun.
and I had 2 Jewish friends that had bat mitzvahs, and so I like really wanted to be Jewish. But yeah, I just kind of I started being a deep thinker at this point in my life. I would say by the time I was like 18 to like 21, was really questioning like what's the meaning of life, and like why are we here, and like this can't be it. Like I had everything on the outside together. I had a high-paying job. I lived in a high-rise hotel. I had a brand new car. I had all of that, and I was so miserable. And I I just started asking all that hard questions. So I started exploring other religions and like what other people believed. And I kind of created my own, which is like, you know, God's whoever it's a personal relationship and all this, which is like so prevalent in the world right now it's called New Age, and it's all about crystal healing and good vibes and manifestation and name it and claim it type of stuff. Like, I've manifested this 'cause I put all my energy on it. And it was actually through a drug trip that I like met Jesus. And
Whoa.
I had several near death experiences before that, that I just kind of was like, oh, like, well, I'm still here, you know? But that one, because it was really a mind F, I couldn't deny that like God delivered me from that, and like I was given a second chance for real, and not from a place of where I had a second chance with like my body, but like a second chance mentally. Like I thought I almost lost my mind and wasn't going to come out of it. And so like God just like really saved me from it. And I knew after that, and like I cannot deny that like Jesus is like it, because I just had my chance, and God was basically like, make your choice or like you're never going to know. You're always going to be searching for truth. You're never going to figure it out. You're going to be on this wild goose chase forever, and you're going to end up in hell. And like, I saw hell and it's scary, and people want to not talk about it because it's really scary. But I'm like, it was the fear of the Lord that led me to this. So now I'm like, okay, what do I do with this? Like, I can't keep living the same way.
Right.
And that happened in 2017. So,
and I want to clarify, like, have you ever heard the fear of the Lord?
I've heard people say that.
Yeah, but like, it's not like afraid, like scary. It's like reverent.
What do you mean? What's reverent?
Like
respect,
like.
So it's the fear I should have of my parents.
It's like a fearful respect.
It's like when you know that you've encountered the living God, you know.
Yeah.
And you know that you can't pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And that he's not real and available and watching and just, you know, we think we're all good until we have like a real judge.
Yeah.
Then there's a seriousness to it. It's not a fear like afraid. It's like a reverence, like, oh, this is legit. Like the way that if you encountered the CEO of your company, you'd be like, oh, this is real. You know,
yeah.
like you take it seriously. I would hope that you wouldn't be like afraid,
Right.
but you'd be like, oh, wow, this person's speaking. I need to listen.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
we experience
Respect.
that. It's an overwhelming respect.
It's like awe.
Yeah.
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 And like, I never doubted that God was real. Like, I always knew there was some higher reason for being here. I was never an atheist. Like, I don't understand that.
You never thought we just like poof and then there were human brains.
That is
No.
incredible level of faith. I mean, that's huge faith.
I don't get that.
But again, even that, if somebody could so strongly believe in that, just like those keys to the doors that don't exist yet, an atheist who could have that much faith and conviction has the capacity to be such a strong believer. Just
That's true.
no doorway has opened yet. You know what I'm saying? Or like they haven't seen the doorway or even tried the key.
That's true.
That I don't look down on that. I'm like, wow, you have huge faith. Like if you don't need things explained, you have a huge faith and it's for something.
The way she says certain things makes it's incredible, Emily.
She gets visual pictures.
She's talking about atheists, and you saying about atheists, they don't need anything explained for them to have a conviction that God doesn't exist.
They don't.
Which is incredible. It's so true. It's true.
I was just looking at an animal the other day. What was it? I was looking at whales. I was watching a video of this whale, and this humpback whale saved this woman from a shark. She didn't know what was happening. She's like diving, and it's like pushing her. It's try to put her under the fin, and she's like, "Get away from me!" She thought she was gonna die, and she's like, "Oh no!" And then he like finally puts her on his head and like bumps her out of the water because there's a shark coming toward her, and she didn't know. And some of it's on video. And she's talking about it, but she has the video of the whale's eye, and his eye was like huge. Like, and she's like, it was like he was trying to tell me something. And I'm like, and people could think, they would be like, wow, what a beautiful creature. How does that whale give any thought to this woman's safety at all? How is a whale capable? Poof. Now whales have feelings or awareness.
Right.
That came from nowhere. Look inside your eye in like a huge camera lens, like zoom way in, and they're all different.
I just talked.
And that just happened.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
it just doesn't make any sense. But that kind of big faith, you could do big things with it if it's for God.
That's so interesting.
You know, with the revelation of truth, holy moly, those people would probably be like parting Red Seas. You know what I'm saying? I'm serious. It's big faith. I have really big faith. I understand I have a disproportionate amount of faith, but
I don't.
What?
I don't. I'm the opposite.
Well,
But you
then
naturally have big faith. Yeah.
If you, I don't know. I just
Let
say
me
like
ask
I'm
you
ruined.
this. Do you think that things work out when you say like you have a great life, you're the luckiest person you know? Do you think that that's all because of everything you've done, or do you feel like God has orchestrated it for you?
100% God.
Okay.
Well, there you
So
go.
you have some faith.
There's faith.
Yeah, but no, okay, so I guess we're
It's
talking
just
about,
like you had a good speaking voice when I met you. You're even better now. Like you're already on that track. I
Yeah.
just don't think you necessarily see it.
the 3 words I say, I'm not kidding, every single day for years.
Lucky.
No,
Oh.
the 3 words I say the most times every single day, to no one's around, just to
Yeah.
myself. Thank you, God. I've said that for years. Years.
See, but your words have power.
Yes.
You're thanking God for years.
To answer your
and every
question,
day you're
though,
like, wow, I'm so blessed.
Right, but also to answer your question, like why things happen, I'm very much a believer that my attitude on things is one that attracts a lot towards me. And I'm aware of that, very aware of it. And so it's almost like the rich get richer.
Mm-hmm.
It's that, but with attitude and with energy and with my outlook and with the way I approach life and people. It's amazing how that works. And I was never the type of person to like, I believe in those things. I'm a very, if I could see it, it exists. If I can't, I can't.
It's a principle.
But it's so true. Like the more I think of myself as the luckiest man I am, the luckier I become, which is incredible.
It's a biblical principle of reaping what you sow.
100%.
So I've just been learning this a lot in the last like 6 months about biblical principles. They're biblical, but they work for everybody.
100%.
It's the way that God created the world. So like you don't even have to do these things unto him. They work because it's a principle of how
Yes.
he created life, just like rhythm, just like rest, beats, and like it's a principle. And so you can work that system and make yourself great. But if you work that system with God, he makes you great. And you make him greater.
Well, and that's the piece of the new age that I fell into. Like it was working because it falls right in line with like the principles of how the world works. But the problem is you're not giving credit where credit is due. You're not thanking the Lord God Almighty for that. You're thinking that it's the universe. That's how it's labeled. Like, and so I'm thinking, like when I met the Lord there, the Lord's like, you need to make a choice. Like, are you going to pick and follow this path of like good vibes in the universe and all the new age stuff you're believing? Are you going to acknowledge that this is all possible because I created it and I died for the world so that the world could have relationship with me? And it was like, you can't play both sides of it. Like I got to that point at least where I had to make the choice. And I was like, wow, like I have to make this choice with Jesus, because if not, I saw the consequence of it. So
Right.
Like something about I got this from this wisdom challenge, and I'm so excited to see this man in person at this conference next week. But he said, there are ungodly men using godly principles to achieve ungodly results. It works because that's the way it was built into the world. If you
It's
plant,
just like we all
something will
benefit
grow.
from gravity.
well,
You don't want to go there with us. I'm serious. We don't have time. Like, look at the clock.
Time has escaped us.
It has.
what time is it? We gotta.
Yeah,
wrap
we're
up.
close to their place. But
We gotta wrap up.
what I will say is that there are people who can use these principles and achieve ungodly results. But what's interesting is that you're like in this funny in between, because you are working these principles, but your desire is to use them for godly things. Generosity, caring for other people. It's not about you. You're already like 3/4 of the way there, if not more. And that's beautiful. But
I want to become a rabbi.
You've probably been presented religion over and over and over and over and over again. It's like, what is in that basket tied to the ground
that I don't have. I feel pretty great out here. I actually have more freedom out here running around a field than standing inside of a basket. But surrendering is what makes you take flight.
Incredible.
You know? So
incredible. Time has escaped us.
I know.
You'll have to come back on for sure.
I'd love to.
Will you come back on? And then if you're in town.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Next
'Cause
time
you're
we'll
from
talk
Dallas.
about dating.
Yeah, dating. That's a big
Yeah.
topic.
Oh, that would be a good one to
You
go
know,
into.
like to throw something in there if you're just curious
A
about
big
what
one.
like a lot of people have a lot of different views on it, but I think what I've really learned is like how to be a sister, how to be a friend, and to like build the foundation of friendship. Like I know if I'm attracted to someone immediately, but I'm more interested in like, who is this person? And like with my eyes closed, do we have similar goals? Do we have similar values? Do we have similar interests? If I can hit those 3 things and Jesus is my whole pie, like I will never consider someone again who does not love the Lord. And being raised Christian isn't enough to know what it is to have that whole pie, the wholeness. I'm like, if you don't have that, I won't entertain a deeper thought for you. I could you're beautiful. That's great. Congratulations on your face.
You're like the Israeli at the mall trying to sell you.
Yeah. Congratulations on your face. I do not want what you're selling.
Yeah.
But yeah, truly learning to like know people for who they are and finding like the best soul connection, physical connection, and spiritual connection. If you can get those in one person and it's reciprocal, it's equal, and you both want it, I think that's like a really important piece.
Anything to add, Laura? You agree? And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it was so good. This has been a long time in the making because I think we must have talked about like podcasts or something back in 2015.
In Seattle?
Yeah, I mean, just our personalities. We must have.
I don't know. We
No?
talked about comedy before that.
Something.
We
Yeah.
can do all kinds of things.
Yeah, it's
Very
been a long time coming. Thanks for doing it. Yeah.
This was
For
great.
inviting
This was
me.
really
Isn't it
fun. Yeah,
This
I
was
loved
my
it.
first time, so I liked
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yay.
Incredible.
Awesome. Well, you
Yeah.
got a great show here. I mean, just incredible. Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
What do we do now? Cut it?
Now we all stand up and dance.
Oh, okay.
Lord bless you and keep you safe and send his angels to
I
guard you and
put this on
protect
here?
you.
I put this on here.
Yes.